Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to the regular scheduled meeting of the Human Relations Commission of the City of Palo Alto. Staff, can we do roll call, please?
Vice Chair Eberly. Here. Commissioner Cossey. Here. Commissioner Shea. Commissioner Kraus. Here. Commissioner Savage. Here. Chair Smith.
Present.
Commissioner Stimler. Here. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you so much. At this time, we will open up for public comment. The comments at this time cannot be made on an item that is on the agenda. So if it is an agendized item, we're asking for all to wait till the agendized item. We will now open up for public comment. Public comment will be 2 minutes. Staff, do we have anyone for public comment?
Just a minute, Chair.
Thank you.
To put on her lap. It's warm.
Give the nice gentleman to, is that public or is that for the
Is
agenda?
this for just? Okay. So our first speaker is Mark Weiss. Mark, you have 2 minutes.
I think 1 minute.
Okay.
Hello, commissioners. Happy New Year. Thank you for your service and staff. Council member. My name is Mark Weiss. I'm a graduate of Gunn High School, and I'm also known for putting on a music series, my 31st season, but I'm on hiatus from the music world, and then I'm coaching high school basketball at my alma mater, Gunn. I'm assistant to Matt Passel, who was our captain in 1980. And I just wanted to remind people, it's an exciting opportunity for community building, is that on Saturday at Gunn, there are 5 basketball contests, Gunn versus its crosstown rival, Palo Alto High. So I think that'll be a great example of community building and friendly rivalry and teamwork and sportsmanship. So it's not beyond the pale of the Human Relations Commission to support basketball as an international and a local game of good sportsmanship. So I just wanted to mention that. There's freshmen boys, there's JV girls, there's varsity girls, there's JV boys and varsity boys. So you can have 5 hours of basketball if you want. So just wanted to mention that.
Thank you so much, Mark. Thank you for the community building.
And no other online hands have been raised, Chair.
All right, do we have any agenda changes, additions, and deletions? Okay, we haven't heard anything on agenda changes. We will move to the approval minutes. I will ask for a motion on that, please.
I move to approve the minutes of the last meeting on December 6th, 2023.
Commissioner Kraus has made the motion. Can we have a second?
I'll second it.
Vice Chair Eberly has seconded it. We will ask the questions. We'll ask the question. Commissioner Stimmer, do you yay or nay?
Yay.
Commissioner Kraus?
Yay.
Vice Chair Eberly?
Yay.
Commissioner Kraus?
Yay.
Commissioner Savage?
Yeah.
Chair Smith, yay. We have full approval of minutes. Thank you. Our first item tonight is we will do an introduction to the city's equity and inclusion manager, Mr. Kojo Pierce. I was fortunate enough to be on the interview committee, and he has a stellar background. He has a great demeanor with him. I think he'll be of extreme value to our city. And I felt like since his work intersects dramatically with the HRC, I felt like it would be good for us to meet him. So we have Vice City Manager. Is it assistant?
Deputy City Manager.
I butchered that thing 7 different ways. Assistant City Manager Chantel Gaines will introduce him and we'll go from there.
Thank you so much, Chair Smith and Commissioners. Good evening. Chantel Cotton Gaines, Deputy City Manager. I think I just got 5 promotions from Chair Smith right there. Appreciate
I'm
it.
speaking your future.
But pleasure to be with you all this evening. With me is Mr. Kojo Pierce. As Chair Smith referenced, he's new to our team, joined the city in October. He'll tell you a little bit about himself, but we're really excited to continue the city's work on our race and equity efforts, which we started around 2020 and have been sort of coming along, and adding this resource really allows us to advance more of the work going forward. So with that, I'll let Mr. Pierce talk a little about himself.
Good evening, Commissioners. Hello, how are you guys doing today? My name is Kojo Pierce. I'm just going to start by telling you a little bit about myself. I was actually born in Hayward, St. Rose Hospital. My family and I moved to Ghana when I was 5 years old. I came back when I was 10. I actually went to JLS right there off of East Meadow. I moved back to Africa when I was 13 years old. Okay. And then I came back when I was 18. When I first came back to America, I wanted to be a police officer. So I went to San Jose State. I graduated with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. And at the point I graduated, I met a few fellows who were working at Home First. And they said, hey, you know what? I think you would like to do this work if you want to give back to your community. I had a caseload of about 20 people who had HIV/AIDS, but I had to help them find housing. I was able to house about 3 people in 1 month, which was, unbelievable. I transitioned to Life Moves. When I first started, they said, hey, we want to start a DEI committee and we think you would be a big help. So during the interview process, they said, what can you bring? I said, hey, my guiding principle in life is that everyone should be treated fairly and equally. So I had monthly DEI events and also created a DEI newsletter. So when I saw this opportunity at Palo Alto, I thought it was this perfect opportunity for me to come around full circle, since I went to JLS and I also had my first job in Palo Alto as well. So I am very honored to be here. Some of the things we're working on right now is having DEI trainings. We're going to have about 10 DEI trainings starting in February every other month. We're also going to have a mental health first aid training by Momentum. We're going to have one in January, February, and also March. Right now, Chantel and I are working on a 2-year strategic plan with the help of Ed and the commission and other city management office. And then we're going to show that to you all when we complete that. But I am very honored to be here, and I don't want to be considered just a representative of DEI, but I want to be considered a thought partner, someone you can collaborate with. My first 3 months, I made sure I met every department. There's about 17 different departments here in Palo Alto, so I made sure I met everyone, but I'm still learning, and I still want to get the opportunity to know people's real stories and how we can be a help and a support system. So thank you so much for having me.
All right, do we have public comment?
No one has raised their hands online, and no one has come to the dais for that agenda item, Chair.
Commissioners, anybody have any questions for Mr. Pierce?
I have a question. First of all, thank you for coming. It's nice to meet you. Welcome. The training that you're going to be doing, is it going to be for city employees only, or will it also be for commissioners?
Yes, it's for city employees and also commissioners as well.
Thank you.
There we go. I want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us. There's no more bigger set of issues that surround the city. So thank you.
May I just interject? It seems like the sound is a little quieter than usual tonight, so I am
Yeah.
checking with our audio folks. But if in the interim, can folks just maybe be a little closer to their microphone? Because I know once you get further out in the audience, it's hard to hear as well. Thank you, commissioners.
Commissioner Causey?
I just wanted to say welcome and thank you for being here. And from one JLS alumni to another, go Panthers.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I am extremely excited to have you as part of this effort. How can this commission support you? Is there anything that we as a commission, as a HRC, can come alongside you to help in the DEI effort?
If it's okay, I'll start and let Mr. Pierce add on. We're really looking forward to working with the HRC to also help us work with other commissions on this topic. And so I think Mr. Pierce will have a lot of opportunities to really engage with this commission as we're trying to think about like an equity lens in the work of all the work that every other commission is doing. So we'll have opportunities to sort of tease that out a little bit more with you and what exactly that'll look like. And to his point of making any trainings available that you may want to have for your own commission, that will really put you in a comfortable place to do that.
Yes, absolutely. What she said, I just want to echo that. Of course, I want to get the opportunity to learn and work with you all. But the training, I think that's just a start. But I think there's going to be more opportunities for trainings, collaboration. So I look forward to those opportunities. Thank you.
We have our esteemed council member with us. Council member.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Pierce, I just want to commend you for how out and about you have been. We put on a housing related event this past fall, and I think you were days into your service here in the city and you showed up for that event. And I watched you and enjoyed watching you interacting with people, most of whom I think you were meeting for the first time. And I was impressed by the ease with which you made your way and that initial conversation that we had. So welcome to the city, welcome back. And we're really excited to see you in this role. And the trainings that are going to be starting, I think, are really important. And I know the commission has had a lot to do with recommending that such things take place. So it's really great to see the forward momentum here.
Thank you.
Is there anything you'd like to reveal on the plan moving forward, or have you shared everything? Okay, thank you.
It sounds so secretive when you state it that way. We're still working on it. So we have, in the last few years, as you know, we've sort of launched our race and equity efforts in 2020. And the commission has done a lot of work in that time, and we haven't spent as much time on the workforce piece of it. So that is one of the areas that we'll really be focusing on. And as we have more materials available in terms of the next steps to come on that, probably in this first quarter, I think is a safe description. We can share that with the commission for sure. And in terms of more formalized information from there, we just don't have it at this time. But I say sometime within the next month, we'll have it.
No, I was just gonna tell Chantel that her shirt did not go unnoticed, so congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Go Blue.
I just wanted to,
Go.
a lot of athletics in the in here today. Panthers, basketball, blue. But I also wanted to say, one thing we could offer you is that just since I've joined this commission in the summer, we've done a lot of listening sessions already with the community. So we had a listening session with the elderly. We had a listening session with our Asian population. We had the Arab and MENA listening session last month. Now we'll be doing this Jewish community listening session. And so one thing we could offer you is if you go onto YouTube, they're all there and you can watch at whatever speed you like. Don't not necessarily have to watch them at full speed, but and that might be an interesting way for you to hear from some of the voices that we've been hearing from as you kind of orient yourself about what the commission's been up to, but also just what our community's been thinking about so far.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, we thank you both for being with us. And we really, really appreciate it. We are going to be your biggest advocates and supporters as we move forward. So we're so grateful. Thank you. Staff, I'm going to take, what time is it now?
It is 6:20.
We're going to take a 10-minute break. everybody, I'll explain why we're going to take a 10-minute break. We told some of the speakers and some of the community that item number 2 we would get to at 6:30. So since it's, and to be fair, so people can show up at 6:30. I don't want anybody to walk in and be like, you started early or miscommunicated. So I want to make sure, because I know somebody would tell me when I leave, you started early. So we're going to take hi, Rabbi. We're going to take a 10-minute break, and we will bring up item number 2 at the 6:30 time. Thank you much.
Great. And Chair, I did check with the audio folks that it's as high as it can go. So the real key is just that folks are closer to the microphone.
Okay.
Thank you.
If you're one of our, just some parliamentary things before we go on this 10-minute break. If you're one of the 3 speakers, please come to the front. If you want to make public comment, staff has cards for you to fill out up front. So I will see you at 6:30. Thank you. The meeting has come back to order. We are on item number 3, which is Voices of Our Community listening session, local Jewish experiences in the face of rising anti-Semitism. In speaking to many people in our community, we understood that 2 particular parts of our community were feeling extreme fear. We as the HRC are the canary in the coal mine, and we want to provide opportunities for communities to be seen, heard, and allow people to speak. In December, we brought in the MENA community, and we allowed them to share their experience. Tonight, we're bringing in the Jewish community. The first thing I will say is, this is a respectful place where it is a safe space, and we want to hear from each and every person that wants to speak tonight. I want to be clear that the items on this agenda are dealing with the local impact of fear, local challenges. I know there are a lot of global issues that drive this moment, but unfortunately, I'm unable to fix the global issues. But what I can do is I can make sure that we elevate this conversation and that the people in Palo Alto, whether we have council members here, people will watch, they understand the trauma, the challenges, the feelings, the fears of your community. So I want to just go over some particulars of how we will run tonight's
Public comment.
and council members currently. Third, we were great city to those that press the red button.
I'm David Booth, worked in Palo. Anyway, supported, reached out to the Jews from Hindus with having a variety of students. So in other words, nationwide since October 7th. And at least one of those was an anti-Semitic incidents nationally. So Palo Alto, but of course, we're living in a Bay Area region. So what I wanted to first of all highlight for district attorney. So if you can see on the Palestinian flag, and then you've got a picture of a few different part of his portfolio whatsoever. The district attorney's office saying he needs to be killed. And then I want to just identify Hamas in the last is over some Israeli Hamas to identify what they're calling when he's come to the synagogue and anywhere he's gone, he's had to because they're Jewish. It's targeting a political leader. So I wanted to highlight against Chabad of Poway. It's Chaim. It's also the Hanukkah. He wanted me to say that anti-Semitism, we recognize that there are security challenges uniquely faced by the Jewish community, and we would like the city of Palo Alto, alongside the state that's already done some of this, to help fund and pay for those ongoing security needs. Finally, we believe it's critical that we recognize and name the threat of anti-Semitic material that's disguised as criticism of Israel. This is the hardest because we as a community recognize and are deeply invested in vibrant political discourse, and criticizing Israel can be no exception. But when such violence targets individuals, as we saw with Jeff Rosen, where Zionist is used as a code for Jewish, where violence is called for or hinted at, then a line has been unequivocally crossed. We're really grateful for the invitation from this committee. You guys reached out to us, and it means a tremendous amount to know that, and thank you very much.
My name is Sarit, and I'm here to talk about my experience as a Jew today in Palo Alto. The awful truth is, I feel like a bullied kid who doesn't know when and where the next blow is coming from. If it'll be the usual group tormenting me today, or the new guys across the hall. If it'll be in form of intimidation, a verbal attack, or God forbid more. Constantly on guard, feeling exhausted, scared, and alone. Since October 7, the Jewish community has been repeatedly attacked from every angle, here in Palo Alto, Los Altos, San Jose, and all around the Bay Area. To be clear, I'm not complaining about people's lack of understanding of faith and traditions or the usual anti-Semitic microaggressions. Those, I sadly say, we have gotten used to. I'm talking about the unprecedented harassment and attacks on Jews. Where do I start? White supremacist Zoom bombers disrupting our city council meetings, spewing their vile and vulgar slurs. Did you attend and listen? My children did, and I assure you it's haunting them. We've had bomb threats targeting our institutions, schools, and synagogues, swastikas popping up left and right at Starbucks and Trader Joe's, students in our schools repeating disgusting Holocaust jokes, calling Heil Hitler, or denying the Holocaust altogether. And if that is not enough, following the greatest and most violent attack on Jews since the Holocaust, unprecedented in its brutality and horror, as we're mourning the murder of our family members and friends, the injured, the raped, and the kidnapped. Instead of support and comfort, there have been exclamations of joy and celebrations. People instantly taking to the street, not in solidarity, but violent protests all over the Bay Area, less than 20 minutes away, justifying these acts of evil against my people, glorifying terrorists, destroying Jewish symbols, declaring days of rage, calling for the annihilation, the cleansing, the death of Jews. Just look at the recent images from El Cerrito. Jewish students at Stanford are being harassed and intimidated and threatened. Their esteemed professors are distorting history, discriminating against them in class, calling for boycott and spreading anti-Jewish and anti-Israel propaganda. Non-Jewish allies are being isolated and canceled for showing sympathy and support. K-12 teachers across the Bay are circulating unauthorized materials ridden with inaccurate, hateful, and inflammatory content, teaching students to mark Jews as oppressors, as public enemies. Does that sound familiar to you, Jews as public enemies? Our teachers, fearful or unwilling to step in, are failing to protect our children. The list of anti-Semitic incidents in our school goes on and on. We're terrified at the thought of state-mandated ethnic studies getting hijacked to institutionalize anti-Semitism through our school system, which in its current form is guaranteed to happen. Bless you. I cannot overemphasize how deeply isolated, scared, and unsafe Jewish students are feeling here in Palo Alto. All they're hearing is how much everyone hates them. In the news, on the streets, through social media, or directly from their friends and classmates. The rise in the demand for mental health services is skyrocketing. Palo Alto residents are taking off their Stars of David, removing or obscuring mezuzahs from their doors, avoiding synagogues or Jewish events. Israelis are no longer comfortable speaking Hebrew in public. I agonized before decorating my home for Hanukkah this year, fearful to find my car or garage door vandalized. If all this were happening to you, your community, your people, how safe would you feel? And that is not the worst of it. Silence. Devastating silence all around, from our neighbors, fellow Bay Area communities whom we've comforted and stood publicly by after George Floyd and when Asian hate was surging. Silence from the organizations and causes we've been supporting, from the institutions we belong to, from our neighbors and friends. My daughter is an advocate for women's and reproductive rights. She has been a leader in her school vigilance against gender-based violence. Yet when it comes to Jewish girls and women, the violation of their bodies, their human rights, her fellow advocates are silent. For Jews, different rules apply. After October 7, appalled by the lack of clear condemnation of terror and hate, Jewish parents fought for an urgent resolution on anti-Semitism to protect Jewish children. But instead of support, our efforts were stalled. We encountered resistance to something so simple, so obvious. When others, like the African American and Asian communities, had previously requested similar protective resolutions, it was immediately and unequivocally backed by all. We then did not rise up and claim we felt dehumanized because it did not include us. It was about our neighbors and friends. I must ask, how is Jewish safety different? We tried to meet with the Arab and Muslim community to explain our concerns and urgency, but were told that our requests were denied because of scheduling issues. The trauma this process has caused, the realization that there are double standards on empathy and understanding in our Palo Alto community, has left us, and especially our children, deeply scarred. A peaceful, apolitical rally right outside City Hall, where Mayor Koo heroically spoke. And I say heroic because one must truly be brave these days to openly stand by the Jews. A rally calling for the release of hostages, including babies and children, was interrupted by FUs. Posters of children in captivity are being torn down all over the city, on El Camino, on Maybell, on University, in violation of free speech. Where is the compassion, I ask? Never have, or will I ever march for anything other than peace, tolerance, and democracy. Never have I called for violence against a group of people. Never have I destroyed religious symbols, vandalized, or endangered public safety. Never would I back any cause whose other supporters behave this way. These are not the values I live by, that I teach my children. These are not the values of Palo Alto, our diverse, inclusive, and caring city. Nothing can possibly justify such actions. What the Jewish community has learned since October 7 is that there is a shocking lack of empathy and support, an undeniable hypocrisy, and a harsh and depressing reality of deep-rooted ancient hatred. And we cannot break it. 6 million wasn't enough. What are 1,400? As a 10th grader recently said, they should have gassed you all. How can I protect my children against this sort of hatred? The atrocities of October 7 and the pain and suffering it caused and continues to cause is not something the city of Palo Alto can resolve. However, the rampant rise in anti-Semitism that's impacting our Jewish community, from the traditional white supremacist kind to modern anti-Zionism, that we can and must fight together. The one-sided ceasefire resolutions we've seen popping up everywhere, horrifying scenes from cities like Oakland and Foster City, will not only further traumatize but amplify division, hate, and violence against our Jewish and Israeli community. We ask for your attention, support, and protection before something truly terrible happens here in our Palo Alto community. My mother is a Holocaust survivor, and it'll be exactly 80 years since most of her family was brutally and intentionally slaughtered to make Jews extinct. Growing up in Germany, many of my friends' grandparents told me they either didn't know what was going on at the time or they had missed the signs. And by the time they woke up, it was too late. I ask you, violent marches on our streets, indoctrination and propaganda in our schools, hateful chants and symbols calling for the death of Jews everywhere. What other signs does our community need to wake up and acknowledge that something fundamentally wrong is happening here? This great nation has firsthand experienced the horrors of terrorism, extremism, hate, and evil. We know better. We cannot allow history to repeat itself. Never again is now. Thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting us to speak tonight. Can you hear me? Okay. I'm Lori Myers. I've lived in Palo Alto for over 30 years. My husband and I got married in Palo Alto. Both of our children graduated from Gunn High School. My brother and his family live in Palo Alto. And about 10 years ago, my parents moved here. So now 3 generations of my family live in Palo Alto. I'm also an educator, and I serve as assistant principal at a local Jewish school. Here's a powerful quote from Joe Biden. Quote, "In the last weeks, our nation has seen a series of anti-Semitic attacks targeting and terrorizing American Jews. We cannot allow the toxic combination of hatred, dangerous lies, and conspiracy theories to put our fellow Americans at risk." Very relevant, right? What's interesting is that this quote is from 2021, well before October 7th. Since October 7th, anti-Semitism has increased, as Rabbi Booth said, nearly 400%. And that's targeting a tiny percent of the population, only 2%. In fact, according to the FBI, 60% of hate crimes are targeting us, the Jews, only 2% of the population. And we feel this here in Palo Alto. You can't imagine, and I hope you never do, how it feels to know that there is a government in the world, Hamas, that literally wants me and my Jewish children dead. This is one of the loneliest feelings you can imagine. We didn't ask for this, but it's here on our doorstep. What was happening before is now worse. And whatever we've been doing as a city, as a school district, and as a community is not working. And it's time to make a change. Slide, please. About 12 years ago, my daughter, who was in middle school at Gideon Hausner Jewish Day School, came home saying that the kids from JLS threw pennies at her and said that Hitler didn't finish the job when she was at Rick's Ice Cream. Slide, please. We reached out to our principal, who contacted the JLS principal, and I was told that they would take care of it. Until the next month, when it happened again. Talk about mental health issues for children. The Hausner students were traumatized. Hausner brought in a therapist to help the children process their feelings, but PAUSD said they were on it, and I thought it was done. Slide, please. Until just 1 year later, same place, same schools, a year apart. My son comes home from eating pizza at Mountain Mike's, where several JLS kids called them stupid Jews. Again, it was JLS students. Again, we reached out to the Hausner head of school, who reached out to the JLS principal, who said she'd take care of it. I still have the email. And then I found out that it happened again recently. Slide, please. This is a pattern. This isn't getting better. This is what it means to not be seen. Slide, please. Let's talk about the library. I love the Palo Alto Library. Its mission is so consistent with mine as an educator to connect our diverse community through knowledge, resources, and opportunities. So in 2021, when I saw an event on their website hosted by an organization that calls Zionism racism, I was shocked. Slide, please. And let me tell you why. Zionism, according to Britannica, is a Jewish nationalist movement that has as its goal the creation and support of a Jewish national state in the ancient homeland of the Jews. Zionism is racism, conveys that the Jewish people, unlike all other people in the world, do not have a right to self-determination. That's a double standard. That's anti-Semitic. So I emailed the librarian, who responded that it's an outside event. But is this consistent with our library's values and mission? Does that connect or divide our diverse community? Would the library promote an event from an organization whose values are blatantly anti-Asian or anti-Black? So I emailed the librarian again. No response. I assumed this was an isolated incident. Fast forward to October 2023. We see a recommended book list on the library website about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The books on the list look pretty reasonable until they don't. Slide, please. An author who has publicly posted anti-Semitism, including, and I quote, "We will slaughter you and you will say that what Hitler did to you was a joke. We will drink your blood and eat your skulls. Come on, we are waiting for you," end quote, is on the list. So my friend emails the librarian, who replies, quote, "Our goal is to provide the information and tools people need to be exposed to various viewpoints." I'm not for book banning, but is this a various viewpoint that is consistent with library values? And this wasn't just any list, it was a staff recommended list at a time when anti-Semitism is at an all-time high. After that, we didn't even bother emailing back. This is what it means to not be heard. Slide, please. And there's more. In December, a group of teachers ran a training called the, quote, From Oakland to Gaza Teach-In, in which so much bias and anti-Semitic content was included that it made the New York Times. This was an unauthorized event during the school day, but so far, no consequences. And you can say, but it was in Oakland, but with the internet, materials are available to everyone. Slide, please. This is one example of what the teachers recommended be taught with regard to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. If this image of a Jew as octopus looks familiar, it's because this is just like what the Nazis printed during the Holocaust. But this is now in Oakland, in public schools. Slide, please. Here's another lesson from a coloring book for kids as young as 5 years old. This is in our schools. And another teach-in is scheduled for January. Slide, please. What's even worse, if it can get worse, is that last night the Santa Clara County Board of Education was considering a resolution on a ceasefire that was so biased that when it listed groups to be protected, it listed Arab American, Muslim, Middle Eastern, Palestinian, and then Jewish. But where is Israeli? And by the way, there is an education code and law that says you can't discriminate on the basis of nationality. And this is coming from our County Board of Education. Now, an organization called CARE, Council on American Islamic Relations, spoke in favor of this resolution last night and shows up at many Palo Alto public meetings. It's important for you all to know that CARE has been disavowed by the Biden administration because its national director said he was happy to see Gazans invading Israel on October 7th. Literally. We're not being seen or heard. Slide, please. But it's not all bad. On Friday, October 13th, Hamas called for an international day of rage. This was taken so seriously that the school where I teach, Hausner, and other Jewish schools closed for the day because they didn't know if kids would be safe. Slide, please. So, one of the Palo Alto parents, Jewish parents, reached out to the Junior Museum and Zoo for a last-minute field trip, and the Junior Museum said yes. The city gave 40 free tickets to the children, welcomed them, and created a light of support for the Jewish community during a terribly frightening day. That's the Palo Alto way. Here's another. Slide, please. When Lydia Koo, on the dais at Palo Alto City Council, issued a powerful and emotional statement condemning terrorism and anti-Semitism, and Julie Lythcott-Hames broke protocol to give her a hug, that's the Palo Alto way. And when at the Interfaith Vigil, Lydia Koo issued a proclamation condemning terrorism and the deaths of Palestinians and Israelis, all due as a result of the Hamas attack, and she called out hate, that's the Palo Alto way. And here's another. One of my friends, a visibly Jewish woman, walks to synagogue every Saturday. On her way there in November, somebody screamed, "Free Palestine," from a passing car. She was so humiliated, she didn't want to say anything or report it. Now, contrast that with the wonderful neighbor whose name I don't even know, who greets me every Shabbat when I'm walking with, "I hope you have a good Shabbat and have a great day." He knows what's going on, and he reaches out with a smile. That's the Palo Alto way. What's happening with anti-Semitism in the world and our country is also happening here in Palo Alto. The problem hasn't been addressed and it hasn't been fixed. But let me talk to you about a national strategy for solving this problem. Slide, please. The U.S. national strategy to counter anti-Semitism is the gold standard strategy developed in partnership with 1,000+ Jewish and other groups. It is an excellent, vetted playbook for cities like ours to tackle anti-Semitism. In fact, it's so good that the U.S. Council of Mayors has even co-created an implementation guide for the strategy specifically for cities, and this is in your packet. We recommend that Palo Alto implement the national strategy and that the Human Relations Commission convene a subcommittee to study its recommendations. We would ask that the subcommittee include a representative from the Jewish community to help with prioritization and context. Very briefly, here are the strategy's 4 pillars. Pillar 1 is education, robust anti-Semitism education. If you can define anti-Semitism, you can identify it. And if you can identify it, you can stand against it. This is what would have helped at the Oakland teach-in, so teachers would understand what that octopus cartoon really means. Slide, please. Pillar 2 is safety and security. We are very fortunate and very grateful to the Palo Alto Police Department for all they do and for their strong relationship with the Jewish community. But these are unprecedented times, and security is crucial for Palo Alto Jewish institutions who are footing the bill, at least at my school, for 2 armed guards and a new security fence. This is where Pillar 2 comes in, safety. Slide, please. Pillar 3 is about the city and our leaders being upstanders. When anti-Semitism happens, we need leadership to call it out and take action. It's not political. Everyone needs to call out hatred, no matter who is saying it. This is what would have helped at the library and at the Santa Clara County Board of Education last night. Slide, please. Pillar 4 is about solidarity. We need to build coalitions to come together and to stand up for each other if we're ever going to counter hate. And that leads to our second recommendation. Slide, please. Hold a day of unity, where all groups in Palo Alto come together in unity and goodwill. We have more in common than divides us. We need to come together and live that value. Ultimately, this is what we want: inclusion, civility, respect, and responsible actions, just like the mission of the Human Relations Commission. Our community wants to partner with you to build the kind of Palo Alto we know we can have with true unity. This is what I want for my family's 3 generations in our city. I want to thank each and every member of the commission. I know how hard you work and how much you all care. Thanks for all you've done and keep doing for us in Palo Alto. Thank you.
Thank you all for those movingly powerful presentations. At this time, I will open it up for any commissioners that have comments. Vice Chair?
First of all, thank you so much for speaking, and I know it takes a lot of courage and strength to come up here and tell us your stories. So we really appreciate that. I think it's extremely important for us to hear from everyone. I did want to just make one comment to Rabbi, from one of the comments that Rabbi Booth made, which was that he stated that he appreciates the distinction between criticizing Israel and anti-Semitism. And I appreciate that comment because I think that that's a line that I also agree cannot be crossed. And I appreciated the way that you illustrated it with a flyer and explained to us, and for anyone out there who's watching this, where the line is crossed. I think that there's a lot of work that can be done to educate people on that. And I appreciate what you said. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Kraus?
Thank you so much. Really. It's time we were vocal and we were seen and heard. Thank you. I just want to reach out to the people that are here and invite you to tell your stories. Be vocal. Don't sit and watch us. That's not useful. Lori, I must tell you, there are not many people I talk to at 6:30 in the morning in the car, but you are one. And I thank you for the collaboration and the work we've done together. Thank you. It was my honor to drive to the gym and chat with Lori. What can I say? I think national events, and I think differently than many, have brought this to our doorstep. And we can't talk about it in isolation. It's all part of the same, period. Thank you, Cloma.
You're welcome. Commissioner Savage?
Yeah, I just wanted to add my thanks as well. For those of us who are Jewish of this commission, it's very difficult to hear some of that. You know, the anti-Semitism, the specific examples that all of you gave, just really cut through my heart. And just wanted to thank you for coming, and very interested to hear what the rest of you have to say as well.
Chakossi?
I just also wanted to say deeply thank you. It takes so much bravery and courage to speak on deeply terrifying and deeply painful experiences, and informing us and informing on the city. That is the only way change happens, is to inform us. And I do want to just address anybody who's maybe nervous to speak tonight. How quickly, when you inform the city, how quickly that does create change. We've had a number of listening sessions this year, and our staff is so responsive. And when you have very clear recommendations and very clear calls for unity, our staff hears that and they get right to work on figuring out how to pragmatically create change in the community. So thank you again. And thank you in advance for everybody who is considering giving public comment. I hope you do.
I don't have much to add besides thank you. I actually already feel much more informed just from the initial presentations. I believe deeply in the Palo Alto way that was called out. And that's what I see as a non-Jewish member around me. And so I would say that hearing that that's not always the case, especially for children in our community, is really eye-opening and painful to hear. So thank you for sharing, and I look forward to hearing from others.
I'm glad you referenced Councilmember Julie Lipka-Hames. What many people don't know, and she's my friend, so I'm going to share this, is that she was the significant author of the proclamation. She called me on that Sunday night, and she thought and worked about it really hard. And I think the community needs to recognize her heart for the people. So I know she would never share it because she wanted to make sure the mayor looked the best way possible, and I'm grateful for her for that. But I'm a friend, so I'm going to share it anyway. Councilmember, your comments?
Rabbi Booth, Ms. Hungenstein, Ms. Myers, thank you so much for your very heartfelt, anguished testimony. I appreciate that you've decided to share, for some of you, truths that are quite private publicly here with all of us, with the community and online. And some of you play more official roles and it may feel less personal, but I know it is also deeply personal, even as you do the work of building and supporting community and professional roles. It's strange to speak with my back to everybody, so I'm trying to maneuver the situation. Eye contact is so important if we can. Most of you don't know that my mother-in-law is an Orthodox Jew. And when I came home with her son, I was not what she was expecting. And she has loved me for 35 years, and I have loved her. And she and her son became my first connection to the Jewish community. We have 2 children these many years later. They are half Jewish, depending on the rule system you follow. I believe they are half Jewish. They carry their Hungarian Jewish ancestors in their DNA, as they do their African ancestors and their British ancestors through my mother. So I have an adjacency to Judaism and Jewish people that is very important to me. And as such, I felt anguish myself on October 7th when my mother-in-law was visiting us from Arizona, and we all received the news together. And I want every member of the Jewish community here and listening to know that you are safe with me. And that as an and I think we need to hear these things from our allies. As an African American, I've had my own different experience with feeling hatred and fear of being targeted in this country at different times. And I'm not saying it's the same, but I have my own relationship to these issues, and my heart aches for the Jewish people, Jewish diaspora, the Jewish community. I want to also say that a month ago, we heard from members of the Muslim community who expressed in their own way pain and anguish and fear. Children being called things, signs that were harmful. And as a member of neither community, what I hope the Palo Alto way will be is a way forward in true unity with love. I think it was Dr. Martin Luther King, whose legacy and history we're celebrating soon, who said, hate doesn't drive out hate, only love drives out hate. And it sounds so simplistic, like something we would teach kindergartners. Frankly, I think kindergartners get it better than we do. I think the hard work upon us is to figure out how, in fact, to use love to drive out hate, to truly come together across our differences, to be willing to speak not only of our own pain, which is hard enough to speak of, but to then figure out how can I be curious about the pain of the people over there. What has been hardest for me, walking in my shoes as a member of neither community following October 7th, is hearing the deep anguish and yet longing for each side to talk about, and I know they are also hurting for their own reasons. So many people are hurting. And I believe in my heart that almost every one of us wants peace. And I realize that even mentioning a different community right now, some of you may be frustrated that I'm doing so. I want to assure you that was that other community here today, I would also be speaking about the anguish that Jewish people are experiencing. So that is the path I am walking, learning, listening, and I will hold your hand and ask you to hold mine as we try to proceed forward toward peace and unity. I appreciate, Lori, that you mentioned the Palo Alto way. I do think it is ours to create, and I do think we are the people who can do it. Thank you, Chair.
So I'm a little biased. Rabbi Booth is a good friend of mine. We travel together. So, and as I hear, and I've spent a lot of time with the Jewish community in Palo Alto. So a lot of people out here, I actually know you. And tonight, I want to make sure that your voice is heard. I think I'm committed to sit here as long as I need to hear every voice. We want to share your local experience because I want this to go on record in an undeniable way that when we start making recommendations to city council and other people in the city, I can say, listen to the voices. They showed up and they participated in this local forum, and we can't ignore the things they are saying. I want to give you that opportunity because I believe, coming from a marginalized community, our voice is powerful when we stand together. So tonight, we're going to have public comment. I'm going to give each person 2 minutes. How many cards do we have, staff?
We have 44, Chair.
How many people online, staff?
There are 52 people online, but we have already put in the online folks on that list.
Okay. This is what we're going to do. We're going to give you your 2 minutes. I just text staff. I let them know that if we're still doing public comment at 9 o'clock, I will take a 10-minute break for a bio break. Amen? Wrong word. Agreed? Wrong word. You know, this is church in me, yes.
We say amen, by
yeah,
the way.
I mean, I know. This is the only time that we're going to have public comment. So this is the only time we, in the rules of order, Rosenberg's Rule of Order by the State of California Brown Act, that we can have public comment. If you want to make a comment, you have to be signed up by the third person. Let me say this clearly. Staff will close the sign-up sheet after the third person starts sharing. The way we will do it is we will, do you want to do it interchange back and forth?
We already have all the names listed.
Okay.
I didn't do that, Elena did. So we have it all set. I will call 3 names at a time, just so after one speaker, the other 2 know who's coming up, and if you want to stand off to the side. And we're interspersing with folks that are in person and on Zoom.
Okay. All right. Staff, I turn the meeting to you, please.
Okay, so the first 3 speakers are Daisy, Jeff online, and Emil. So Daisy and Emil, would you please come forward? You have 2 minutes each, and is it clear to you where the timer is on the big speakers, and you also see it on your
Can I make
podium there?
One last statement? The more local you make your comments, the more effective our arguments that we can take to city council will be later. You hear me? The more local we make our statements, the easier it is for us to recommend action to council. Thank you.
Can you hear me okay? All right. A little bit higher. Okay, how's that? Good evening. First, I'd like to thank the commission for inviting us to speak tonight. My name is Dr. Daisy Pellant, and I'm the head of school for Kehila Jewish High School here in Palo Alto. Kehila, the Hebrew word for community, lives up to its name as a college preparatory high school that welcomes students, faculty, and families of all cultural, ethnic, and religious backgrounds. Our pluralism is core to who we are, and we endeavor each day to create spaces of belonging for everyone. Our students matriculate to many of the top universities in the country, but for the first time in generations, they and their parents are rightfully concerned about the hate they might face on campus. We hear story after story of alumni who identify as Jewish or as allies and upstanders facing social and institutional repercussions related to their identity or their advocacy. For the first time in my career, we are focusing much of our college preparations on supporting our students as they transition from a place of understanding and safety to what might be a campus of anti-Semitism, aggression, and danger.
For the first time in generations, our students have directly expressed a worry that their college applications will be received less favorably if they share their connection to Judaism, to Israel, or to the Jewish people. I'd like to read an excerpt from a college essay submitted just a few weeks ago to Yale University by one of our outstanding seniors. He writes, "For the first time in my life, fear of anti-Semitism has dictated a major decision of how I present myself. I have to ask myself, what was more important, protecting my future or upholding my identity?" He closes his essay saying, "In many ways, I feel powerless in this situation, powerless over events that impact me and over which I have no control. But in some ways, I'm powerful. I'm empowered to stay true to my values, to be a voice for change, and to advocate for security and democracy for my people." He is strong, and he is surrounded by a school community and a family that have helped him develop into the young man you hear through his words. As you have heard,
Thank you.
however, not every student has this kind of community. By adopting the 4 pillars of the U.S. national strategy to counter anti-Semitism, Palo Alto will demonstrate its commitment to supporting our beautiful and diverse Jewish community and, as a model, set a standard for supporting all communities against the pernicious effects of bigotry and hate. Thank you, and my apologies for going a few minutes over, a few
Thank you.
moments over. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't want to cut anybody off, so please, because I don't want to ever be rude. So please, if we could keep it to 2 minutes, thank you. Next staff.
The next speaker is Jeff online. Jeff, go ahead. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. I'm Jeff Weiner, and I'm calling in from Jewish Family and Children's Services in the Bay Area. We're a social services agency, and we have, among other teams, a clinical team who treat children and families dealing with a range of mental health challenges. And this is the situation our clinicians tell me of Jewish and Israeli teens and their families that are coming to them at present, who report to them that anti-Semitism is having a large impact on their emotional lives. So anecdotally, there's been anti-Semitism, as you heard, in the area for a while, at least the last 5 or 10 years, if not more. And it's shown itself at schools and in the community, where clients of ours have had reported that their kids have had coins thrown at them, as you saw, and found swastikas at school. However, it's never been frequent enough for the Jewish community to feel a real palpable sense of fear. That changed on October 7th. Jewish parents and children are both feeling scared. They hear calls for violence against Jews being chanted at pro-Palestinian rallies, and they hear it in comments from friends who ostracize them after discovering they're Jewish. The response varies by family and individual. Many people have chosen to hide their identity out of fear for their safety by doing things like removing their mezuzah down from their daughters, or not wearing a Star of David around their neck. And others refuse to abandon their identity but feel under attack nonetheless. Israeli families in particular, of which there are many in the area, are seriously questioning whether they're welcome in this country and whether the Bay Area is a safe place for them to raise a family. Parents are reporting much more impact than children, things like anxiety, withdrawal, exhaustion, difficulty sleeping, avoiding religious or Jewish places. And when parents are more stressed, children are very aware and impacted because their sense of safety is in question. They think, if my parents feel like things aren't okay and they're here to keep me safe, then I'm definitely not safe. I could go on longer, but my time is up. I appreciate the time, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, this is the last call. If anybody wants to put in or raise their hand online, please do now. After this speaker starts, we will close the name signing up for comment.
Okay, the next speaker is Emil, followed by Rebecca E. online and Ella. Emil? We will go to Rebecca online if you want to move Emil to the end, just in case he does come back. Just a minute, please. Rebecca, you have 2 minutes. Go ahead, please. Rebecca, go ahead, please. Rebecca, do you need to unmute on your end? Okay, we will come back to Rebecca as well, if I can see the list. The next speaker is Ella, to be followed by AJC online, then Martin. Ella, if you could come forward, please.
Hi, everyone.
Says she has car trouble and she's not at her computer.
Okay, then. Okay.
I wanted to thank you all, first of all, to taking the time to listen to us. It means a lot to me that I can have my story be heard and taken into account. After the Jews, free Palestine. It was only 3 weeks after October 7th. I was walking out of my class and some kid came up to me and said to my face, "F the Jews, free Palestine." For the rest of that day, I was in utter shock that incidents like the ones I've seen on the news have personally happened to me. I have faced firsthand anti-Semitism for the first time in my life at Paoli. I felt unsafe and judged just for existing as a Jewish student. I couldn't believe or understand why anyone, especially in the community we live in, purposefully said something so hurtful. Did they genuinely believe I deserve to be hurt just because I'm Jewish? As I tried to report what happened, the reporting process looked so complicated, and I began to doubt if my teachers, advisors, or assistant principals really know how to handle anti-Semitism. The students in PAUSD are not fully educated on this, and with the direction the influence on the younger audience is going, I see no end to the hate, and I'm worried we'll find ourselves with even more discrimination towards Jews. Instead of safe spaces, our schools will become breeding grounds for harassment and bullying like I've experienced. Anti-Semitism is real, and it's happening on our campuses. I ask you all, commit yourselves to keeping anti-Semitism and all forms of hate off of our campuses, schools, and our city. The hate I experienced should have no place in Palo Alto. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is AJC online, to be followed by Martin and then Angela online. Go ahead, please. AJC, go ahead, please.
Good evening. My name is Oleg Ivanov. I'm the Assistant Director of the Northern California chapter of the American Jewish Committee. Thank you for taking the time to listen to the pain and grief of the Jewish community. AJC's recent survey of American Jews found that 78% said they feel less safe in the US after the October 7 Hamas attacks in Israel. These respondents say they have altered their behavior as a result, such as not wearing something that would identify them as Jewish or avoiding certain places out of concern for their safety or comfort as a Jewish person. In the nearly 100 days since October 7, when Hamas terrorists massacred over 1,200 people and kidnapped hundreds more in Israel, Jewish communities around the US have faced horrifying levels of anti-Semitism. Hamas's supporters in America have targeted events celebrating Jewish holidays, including a Hanukkah celebration at Lake Merritt, verbally and physically assaulted Jewish people, like in El Cerrito last week, violently confronted peaceful supporters of Israel at marches, including an elderly Jewish man who was killed at a pro-Israel rally in Ventura County, and glorified terrorism and denied survivor accounts of sexual violence, as we have seen at city council meetings debating ceasefire resolutions across the Bay Area. As AJC CEO Ted Deutsch said, how are Jews supposed to feel secure when so many side with the murderers in the wake of the deadliest attack against the Jewish people since the Holocaust? This is why we look to bodies like the Human Relations Commission of the City of Palo Alto to stand up for its Jewish residents to ensure that this remains a safe and welcoming community for all of its members. Thank you again for convening this important meeting for the benefit of the entire community.
The next speaker is Martin, to be followed by Angela online, and then Cherie. Martin?
Thank you. We're in a war, and this war has been going on for thousands of years. It's ultimately a religious war dealing with the most fundamental issues of civilization itself. I think that we Jews have to fight our own battles. We have to win our own battles. I don't like to see Jews portrayed as victims. I think it's a mistake to think of ourselves as victims. We can't simply depend on governmental forces to save us. On the other hand, there is an important role for government to do. One of the things that's going on is a relentless slander campaign against Jews and against Israel. They say that Israel is totally evil. Anyone who supports Israel is totally evil. Most Jews support Israel, therefore most Jews are totally evil. I believe that making false accusations against people in order to incite hatred against them is a crime, although it's very seldom enforced. I think methods have to be found so that when false, slanderous accusations are publicly made, action can be taken to deter this. The goal of this slander campaign is to make it very difficult for pro-Israel voices to be heard or pro-Jewish voices to be heard. And the ultimate goal is to silence every pro-Israel voice and create a kind of lynch mob mentality. And this is an enormous danger, not only to Jews, but to our entire society and to civilization in general. So what I'd like to see as a first step is to establish some serious penalties for people who make false accusations. Israel is accused of illegally occupying stolen Arab land. That is false. The Jewish claim to the land is much stronger than the Arab claim. Israel is accused of oppressing innocent Arabs. That is false. The only Arabs who are oppressed by Israel are those who seek to harm the Jewish state.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much.
The next speaker is Angela online, to be followed by Cherie and then Rebecca. There were two Rebeccas, so Rebecca E. has been moved lower down, so this is just Rebecca. So the next speaker is Angela. Angela, go ahead, please.
Hello, my name is Angela, and my child attends a Jewish school in Palo Alto. In fact, one of the ones mentioned here tonight. My family, my child chose the school because we love its values and its approach to education overall, not necessarily because it's a Jewish school. And my child is very happy there, and we are very happy having our child there. My child has Jewish and non-Jewish friends there and cares about all of them very deeply. As a family, we have many close friends who are Jewish and many close friends who are Muslim. A day after October 7th, my child came home from school and declared that they probably shouldn't wear the school-branded sweatpants they received from the school anymore, largely because there is a Jewish star on the pants. They felt scared to wear the most comfortable pair of sweatpants they own because of the Jewish star on those pants. It absolutely broke my heart. I didn't want to play into their fear, but I too felt that there might be some, dare I say, truth or appropriate instincts in that. Perhaps the sweatpants would put them at risk, at least when wearing them in the larger public. This is one of so many anecdotes, many of them so much more painful than the one I just described. But I wanted to thank you, Commission, for doing everything that you can and have done already, and will recommend to staff to help the Jews and the allies of the Jews feel safe and heard in our community, especially for our children. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Cherie, to be followed by Tamika online and then Nathaniel. Cherie.
Hi, my name is Sherry Roth, and I've been a Palo Alto resident for almost 50 years. The Jewish community, as you've been hearing, is feeling very vulnerable at this time, and I want to thank you all so much for taking the time to hear from us. An essential tool to clarify what anti-Semitism looks and sounds like in the 21st century, as well as the packet that Lori mentioned of pillars, is the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, or IHRA definition. The IHRA definition has been adopted by many countries as well as the State Department. Defining anti-Semitism is the first necessary step to combating it. Critics of the IHRA definition claim it will unfairly label critics of Israel as anti-Semitic. The definition makes clear that criticism of Israel similar to that leveled against any other country cannot be regarded as anti-Semitic. Please consider adopting the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, or IHRA definition. And thank you so much for your concern.
Next speaker is Tamika, to be followed by Nathaniel, and then Allison online. Tamika, go ahead, please.
Good evening. My name is Tamika, and I've been a resident of Palo Alto for about 7 years now. What I wanted to share is that I'm someone who finds a great deal of joy and meaning in being Jewish, just like I find a great deal of joy and meaning in being Black. And I know people don't always imagine that those identities overlap, but we're out here. And I'm so grateful to have found in Palo Alto a community where, in my experience, I don't feel like I need to hide any part of myself. I feel like I can bring all of that joy and all of myself wherever I go. But I know that that kind of accepting, welcoming community doesn't happen by chance. It's something that we're all choosing to build together, and something that we need to work to preserve and protect together. So I just want to thank all of my neighbors and the commission for working to make space for me and for people like me. Thank you.
Thank you, Tamika. Nathaniel.
Good evening. I'm grateful to this commission for hearing and acknowledging our community's experience. I'm here tonight on behalf of the Oshman Family JCC, the South Peninsula's largest Jewish communal organization, where we joyfully serve 50,000 people every year of all faiths, ages, and circumstances. You know that anti-Semitic incidents have hit record highs every year, 21, 22, 23, and that Jewish Americans, who are a mere 2% of the population, have been victims of an astonishing 60% of religiously motivated hate crimes every year since 2019. Unfortunately, Palo Alto and Santa Clara County are no exceptions. Just 4 weeks ago, 100 Jewish organizations in California received bomb threats. Locally, we have seen death threats toward Jewish public officials and scholars, dangerous swatting calls, swastikas scrawled at parks and schools, flyers blaming Jews for COVID, a surge in Holocaust denial, and an immense flood of the most vile and degrading social media messages imaginable. Anti-Semitism has only intensified since October 7th. Many of our children, my children, have had classmates, friends, or even teachers calling explicitly for the genocide of their people. Hebrew speakers and visibly Jewish people have been targeted and threatened at school, at work, in public, and online. More than half of Jewish students report feeling physically unsafe on school and college campuses. And as you've heard, in the Jewish community, there's shock at the tepid response from an awful lot of public officials, school administrators, company executives, and other leaders. This isn't abstract for us. In my grandparents' generation, that's how the Holocaust began, was with the silence of public officials and leaders who didn't want to be political. We need your voices. We need your help. Thank you.
The next speaker is Allison online, to be followed by Jessica, Karen, and then Jill. Allison, go ahead, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, please.
Okay, I wasn't going to speak, but I did want to say, I can't tell you how grateful I am to hear what everyone has said. All of your empathy means so much, and I feel so much less alone, even to see my community. It's beautiful to meet new people in my community too here. Many of us Jews were raised to believe that another Holocaust could happen again, and we're watching how our communities respond through that lens. I worry about the next generation and how it's being raised to hate Israel and Jews. These ceasefire resolutions, which demonize Israel, implicitly calling it a country of baby killers and omitting the responsibility of the Gazan government of Hamas, are frightening and intimidating. It's propaganda that's turning people around us into haters of Jews and Israel. They don't see the tunnels and the weapons being confiscated and the reason for the war. Soon after October 7, there was a call for a global intifada, and we were afraid to send our kids to school. Our superintendent didn't tell us about this. I learned from Lori Myers. I want to know if there are any threats so I can choose how to deal with it. And during the debate in the Palo Alto School Board resolutions condemning anti-Semitism and Islamophobia, you could hear how traumatized students were. We need education about PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, that's not political. They're kids that have, families in the war zone and have lived through bombs. We also, Jews, are such a tiny minority. It's frightening to see how outnumbered we are, and we really need to feel like we're not alone. Coming together with other communities is so important. I want to reach out. And finally, I do appreciate your telling us about Julie's authorship on that city council proclamation. I go to it many times. It makes me feel less alone. Thank you. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you. The next speaker is Jessica, to be followed by Karen, Jill, and Natalie. Jessica.
I'm Rabbi Jessica Kirshner. I'm the executive director of Hillel at Stanford. We serve about 1,800 Jewish students a mile and a half up University Avenue. This has been an extraordinarily difficult time for Jewish and Israeli community members since October 7th, but issues of anti-Semitism in Palo Alto predate the present moment. Whether it's housing covenants that limited where Jews could purchase homes, or the subtler anti-Semitism of building a non-sectarian university with a giant church at its heart, and a policy in the founding documents that made this church the only place where public worship was permitted, anti-Semitism is not new here. And yet the Jewish community has determined to thrive at Stanford and in Palo Alto, which it proudly has done despite experiences of discrimination and hate, including students wearing yarmulkes, being shouted at, and even physically threatened on University Avenue, as Stanford undergrads reported to me last year. With Stanford, Hillel is pursuing a number of strategies to address the present-day impacts of historic anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism, which have accelerated since October 7th, several of which I think the city of Palo Alto would be wise to replicate and even sometimes to learn from Stanford's stumbles. First, I strongly encourage you to gather data about what is actually happening in Palo Alto, not just how people are feeling, but what is happening here. This is one way to see the problem you are dealing with and avoid the trap of competitive suffering and oppression Olympics. Second, as you embark on expanded DEI efforts, please make sure you don't have blind spots for people who hold identities that do not have boxes on the US Census, like Jews who are multiracial, multilingual, multinational, and typically invisible to most DEI efforts. Design your efforts to see us too. Third, be careful in your language so that you do not inadvertently erase us. Our ears are finely tuned to hear this. We are Jews and Israelis, and we need to know that you understand that 50% of the Jews in the world live in Israel, and Israelis here in Palo Alto are entitled to respect and protection on the basis of their national identity, just as Jews are on the basis of our religious identity. So challenges when we, Fourth, don't equate anti-Semitism and Islamophobia in a knee-jerk fashion. They are separate and distinct. They have different roots and need different remedies.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Next speaker is Karen, to be followed by Jill, Natalie, and Itzhak.
My name is Karen Huberman, and I've lived in Palo Alto since 1971 and raised my children here. They also went to JLS and Gunn. And I just would like you to close your eyes for a minute. And this is what it has felt like to be a Jew in America and in Palo Alto recently. I'm on a long road. It's totally dark. It's midnight and I'm alone. The wind is blowing and there's no one there, not a soul. This meeting tonight is that ray of light and a friendly face that I wish I would see on that road. And I thank you for it.
Jill, then Natalie, then Heatsock.
Hello, I'm Jill Asher, a 20-year resident of Palo Alto and deeply involved in the community. I'm the co-founder of Magical Bridge Foundation. I serve on the boards of the Palo Alto Art Center Community Foundation and Heart Fit for Life. I'm also on the Grants and Loans Committee of Jewish Family and Children's Services. I'm the former president of the Palo Alto Menlo Park Parents Club, and I am Lori Meyer's sister-in-law. Tonight, I want to share a personal aspect of my Palo Alto experience rooted in my family's history and the challenges faced by the Jewish community since October 7th. My lineage traces back to Ledge, Poland, where my great-grandparents escaped the ghettos, creating a new life in northern New Jersey, and the echoes of their past reverberate through generations with Yiddish conversations, mourning the tragic loss of every single family member during the Holocaust. Despite my progressive upbringing in New Jersey, I never felt the weight of the historical prejudices. However, since October 7th, microaggressions in our community escalated to disturbing acts. The PAUSD superintendent labeled Israel's actions as retaliatory murder, ignoring the horrors faced by the Israelis. The swastikas appeared on El Camino Real, and a man held a swastika sign right outside of Palo Alto High School. The superintendent's failure to denounce anti-Semitism in our schools, public schools, still remains alarming. Disturbing signs and social media posts with ominous messages from river to sea infiltrated our community, promoting the destruction of Israel. And during our city council meetings, anti-Semitic voices seized the open comment section. For the first time in my life, I feel unsafe to be Jewish. The fear is gut-wrenching, leading my husband to remove our mezuzah and stowing away my Star of David necklace. This fear extends to the safety of my Jewish community, now tinged with worry. The current climate forces us to confront the reality that being Jewish is, for many of us, for the first time in our lives, a potential danger in our communities. I urge you to please adopt the pillars from my sister-in-law.
Thank you so much.
Natalie?
My name is Natalie Kraus-Beavis. I've lived in Palo Alto for 41 years. I'm a retired teacher at Palo Verde. I taught reading and English as a second language. My husband is a Jewish refugee from Egypt, from which he was expelled in 1956, along with 800,000 other Jewish refugees from Arab countries. My maternal grandmother's family were all shot into mass graves in what is now Ukraine before Rosh Hashanah in 1943. Many Jews of my generation had their parents ask us, who would hide you? My colleagues and so many of my non-Jewish friends have gone silent, and I think nobody would hide us. And this is the most terrifying thing. I don't know who in Palo Alto is safe anymore. I don't necessarily feel comfortable. I'm so grateful for this commission. I wish my immigrant grandparents had had a city commission, wishing to listen to them. In fact, our essential prayer starts with the word Shema, hear, listen up. So you are doing something so important to us. One of the most frightening things in this, what's happened after October 7th, that a Cornell professor from Palo Alto, whose younger brother was a guest in my house, said to students outdoors in front of a huge crowd that the October 7th attack was exhilarating and energizing. This was just terrifying to me because, as I said, I recognized the name. I knew he was a Palo Alto, and his brother had been a guest in my house so many times. I think the essential thing that I want you to understand is that we're afraid. And I've never imagined in this city that we'd be afraid. And we are members of Beth Am and also Congregation Kolamet. We were at Beth Am in that bomb threat. 500 of us were evacuated. There have been 2 more bomb threats. That cost every citizen of Santa Clara County every time that SWAT team comes out. Anyway, thank you again for listening. And amen is a Hebrew word. It's okay with us.
My name is Yitzchak Feldman. I'm the rabbi of Congregation Emek Bracha on El Camino. aforementioned. I stood here more than 20 years ago at this podium in front of the city council advocating on behalf of an Eruv in Palo Alto. The comments both here in the chambers on those occasions during that era and in the local papers edged into the anti-Semitic. They also edged sometimes into the comic, as very few people took the speaker up here seriously when he said that the Eruv was the leading edge of a Zionist conspiracy. But there is nothing comic about the comments that we are seeing now, and there's nothing comic about the unease that people are feeling now. You heard that Emek Bracha has put a fence around the premises now. We did that. We actually wanted to do that for several years, but the state of California did not think that we qualified as unsafe enough. Now we are unsafe enough, and that's why there's a fence. And one of the things that I want to point out is that living in an progressive, an educated area is of no comfort whatsoever right now. Polling in the Middle East about Hamas shows overwhelming support for October 7th. But that is because people in the Middle East have no access to information except for Al Jazeera. Nevertheless, we find people here who have access to real reports and real images of what happened on October 7th, marching in support of exactly what Hamas has said that they want to achieve. People, and to see this is a reminder that the Palo Alto way is not default in any way.
Thank you.
Palo Alto way is only if it's renewed. I thank the commission for coming together and listening to us and trying to bring back the Palo Alto way.
Thank you, Rabbi.
The next speaker is Itai, followed by Rabbi Zalman, and then Lenore.
Good evening. Thank you so much for listening to us. My name is Itai. I was given my name by my parents that are from Moroccan heritage. So I'm a MENA, I guess, too. So I was a bit surprised that there's another group that denominates itself as MENA, though about half of this room is also MENA, but we were not invited. We immigrated here about 12 years ago, and we immigrated here from France because of the rising anti-Semitism there. I don't want to immigrate again, but we've been starting to think about it because we feel unsafe. You obviously heard that many times, but it is real. We are shaking, trembling of fear from what is going to come in the ethnic studies this coming year for our high schoolers. What is the next generation of Palo Altans going to be learning about what it is to be Jewish or about Israel? We are lucky to have our own school district, but I don't understand, we as a community, why do we have to chase the school district and understand what is going to be taught in our schools? We need your help to please control and monitor and help us making sure that there is no anti-Semitic content in this school education program. Let's not make it an institutional problem. We've been accustomed to let some anti-Semitic events just go by and brush them off by saying that this is not the Palo Alton way. But they're happening so often and so much around us that I am not sure what is the Palo Alton way. I know why I came here, and I hope that I'll see this as I'm moving forward. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for providing this opportunity for our community to share our stories with you. My name is Alman Levin. Together with my wife, Devorah, we direct Chabad Palo Alto, together with my parents, Rabbi Yosef and Dina Levin, who have been spreading goodness and kindness in this community for over 40 years. Just one story I want to share Several weeks ago, a college student named AJ came into our Judaica store, and he shared that he has never felt so alone and intimidated as he has now as a Jew. He said that all of his professors, regardless of the official topic of the class, were sharing all kinds of demonization of Israel, and he felt really alone and afraid to speak up. In a time of so much hate and darkness, it's especially important to increase acts of goodness and kindness. And as many people spoke about, the importance of education. My mentor, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, would always speak about how education is not just about teaching children to read and to write and to be successful financially, but also to teach them morals and values, absolute morals and values, and especially the values. There's a set of values called the 7 Laws of Noah, which are absolute values, which are the bedrock of society. Also want to, even when darkness seems very overwhelming, just like a little candle, a little bit of light can dispel a lot of darkness. Every act of goodness and kindness that we do can make a difference. So I'm actually going to take a moment right now to do an act of kindness and put a coin in the charity box to help those in need. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Lenore, to be followed by Devory, then Mark.
Hi, I'm a Stanford resident, mother of a current Pally Jr., and a board member of the Anti-Defamation League Central Pacific region. I want to share what it's like to be a Jew living in Palo Alto at this moment in time. It is frightening and it's heartbreaking. It's frightening because the oldest racism of all time, Jew hatred, has reared its head in astonishingly ugly, overt ways that have become socially acceptable. And it's heartbreaking because we never dreamed we'd experience this level of Jew hatred here in America and here in Palo Alto, and certainly not in 2024. Let me share some shocking numbers from the ADL who compiles these statistics. In the 3 months since the unprecedented brutal massacre of Israelis on October 7th, US anti-Semitic incidents have skyrocketed 360%. That's more than 3,200 anti-Semitic incidents, almost as many as in the entire year of 2022. And those included 60 incidents of physical assault, 553 incidents of vandalism, over 1,300 incidents of verbal or written harassment, and over 1,300 rallies, which included shouts of support for terrorism against Jews. These numbers are hard to wrap your head around. But what it means is that American Jews experienced nearly 34 anti-Semitic incidents per day here in the United States since October 7th, the highest number during any 3-month period since the ADL began tracking in 1979. We heard what the FBI said, 2% of Jews in America, 60% of the anti-religious hate crimes. As FBI Director Wray said, that should be jarring to everyone. In our own region of Northern California, the rise in anti-Semitism is no less dramatic. In 2021, there were 71 anti-Semitic incidents, doubled to 167 in 2022. Yet now, in a 6-week period after October 7th, we've already counted 111, and we are still counting. So here's the hard truth. It's not just that Jews feel unsafe. We are unsafe.
Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Devorah Levin, and my husband, Rabbi Zalman, and I direct the Chabad in Palo Alto. Thank you for this opportunity to listen to our community's needs and concerns. Since October 7, many are concerned for their children when they hear about the divisive and biased comments built into curriculums shared by teachers who should be a source of support and a role model. As the program director at Chabad, perhaps the question I have heard most since October 7th is, will there be security? I'm grateful to be an American living in a country that my mentor, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, called a Medina Shel Chesed, a country of kindness. When moral clarity has been lost and it can feel like the world is out to attack Israel and the Jewish people throughout the world, it's America that stands up with clarity and conviction, recognizing the despicable acts perpetrated on October 7th by people who are committed to the destruction of Israel and the Jewish people. I want to thank our local representatives for standing up, for standing strong in the face of this threat to our existence.
May we speedily merit the time where the whole world recognizes peace and kindness. In the words of the prophet Isaiah, "V'kitetu charvotam le'itim," they will beat their swords into plowshares. May we speedily experience world peace and unity. Amen.
Next speakers are Mark, then Albert, then Jaffe. Mark.
Good evening, Reverend Coloma Smith, the Chair of the Commission, Commissioners. Thank you for your service, and Council Member Julie Lithcott-Haim. My name is Mark Weiss. I live in Palo Alto, and as I said earlier, I left basketball practice early because 48 hours before our rivalry game, Gunn High School, my alma mater versus Pally on Saturday at Gunn, because this is real and this is important. And I'm taking a cue from that, and that I want to start with Moses Malone, who's one of the all-time great basketball players, 3-time MVP, and he was a black man named for a Hebrew prophet, as I was. My Hebrew name is Moshe. Rabbi Axelrod dubbed me that as I would leave Terman basketball practice, study for my bar mitzvah with Cantor Cohen and Cantor Burns. And my point is that Jews and blacks have been allied for many years. We were taught that we were slaves in Egypt. When Israel was in Egypt's land, let my people go. And my point is there's an analogy between one of Reverend Coloma Smith's greatest accomplishments here and what's going on, in that the people who put up wheat paste broadsides saying they're critical of Israel, but then they say privately that they're not anti-Semites, are the people who said they didn't think that residents only at Foothill Park was a racist statement, and it was. And NAACP, Reverend Ladoris Cordell, Gwen Gasquet, they sued the city, and by a 7-2 vote, we decided to agree with the NAACP and change our racist policy. I am saying that this is real. I produced an event series. I've produced 10 concerts since October 7th. We've had to upgrade our security protocols for various reasons. We have a new worst case scenario to plan for, the murder of music fans on October 7th and the rape and mutilation of women. It's not likely to happen here, but as a Jewish person, we have to be ready.
Thank you, Mark.
Let's, thank you for your time.
Next speaker is Albert, then Jaffe, then GN.
Good evening. Thank you for inviting us. I am Albert Bivas, and I am originally from Egypt, as my wife who spoke before me said. And then the way I approach this is I want to make people educated. I want them to learn. I realize that they are really ignorant. And when I joined Jimena, I mentioned that something that was mentioned before. It is the Jews who have been expelled from the Middle East and North Africa. And I realized that effectively when I was speaking to public, like university students and professors, they really knew nothing. They did not realize the way Jews were treated for centuries in such countries. They didn't realize that practically all of them have been expelled. And they didn't realize that the Jews have been contributing to the well-being, the wealth, the development of all of these Arab countries. So I realized for the first time in my professional life, I was a physicist at September 11 in 2001, that when I was talking about Jimena, a movie that tells the story, a Yemenite colleague said, I'm not interested. I'm only interested in Palestinians. So I went back in time and I realized that effectively in France, one reason why we came here, we have been living here for 41 years. my wife didn't want to live in France because of an attack at the synagogue. And then we come here and the same thing happens. I mean, we have attacks in many places.
Thank you so much,
The same
Albert.
with us. So in other words, we have to educate people. We have to tell them that this has been going on for a long time. Thank you.
Hi, thanks for the invitation to speak. My name is Jaffe Lipson, and I'm here to share my story as a physician in the Palo Alto community. I've been a breast radiologist at Stanford since 2010, and I'm part of an amazing team of physicians and allied health professionals who help women in our community through their breast cancer journeys. Most days you'll find me in a dark room sitting in front of a bank of computer monitors, teaching residents and fellows how to read mammograms, ultrasounds, and MRIs, giving my interpretation and recommendations to my clinical colleagues in primary care, oncology, surgery. But much of my time is spent in consultation and procedure rooms with patients, performing breast biopsies, preparing patients for surgery, consoling and supporting them through the ups and downs of breast cancer. Our patients trust us to alleviate their suffering and promote their health. We, in turn, dedicate our lives to honoring that trust, guided by scientific principles and ethical obligations. This commitment transcends all political ideologies and personal beliefs, ethnicities, and religions. It's for these reasons that I'm here to address a dangerous trend taking hold on social media, in the hallways of our hospitals, and on the streets of our community in Palo Alto and the Bay Area. There's an alarming movement targeting physicians based on their religious and ethnic affiliations by promoting vile ideology that Jewish physicians are a barrier to the delivery of equitable health care, that, quote, Zionist supremacist doctors practice, quote, medical apartheid, and are a threat to Arab, Palestinian, South Asian, Muslim, and Black patients, that the medical profession should be, quote, cleansed of Jews who are a primary obstacle to health equity. This is pure Jew hatred in the guise of social justice. Sadly, it's coming from within the healthcare system. Medical students holding, quote, medical apartheid teach-ins, nurses staging, quote, walkouts to stop genocide, and attending physicians spreading lies and hate online, including a physician at my alma mater, UCSF, just this past month. Jew hatred has no place in healthcare and undermines the very values of inclusivity and compassion that define our community. Please stand with us.
The next speakers are GN, Ella S, and EB. GN. Some folks are listed by their initials, so okay, then we'll go forward. Ella S.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Schulbarbier, and I'm the mother of 4 Palo Altans. We've been here since the late 90s. Part of a French Jewish community of about 100 families living here, many of whom were displaced at some point in their history from North Africa, Egypt, or Iran. And they moved to France because they were seeking a new home. They decided to leave France, to come out here, to start a new life and to experience their freedom here. When we moved here, we were really very impressed at how our kids could be Jewish and be proud to be Jewish. That they would talk about Jew power at Terman Middle School, and I was really impressed that we could speak openly about who we were, which wasn't the case in France. My son has a girlfriend who is Muslim from Lebanon, and we share so much. We eat the same foods, we share the same music. And on October 7th, my son had to stop using TikTok and Instagram because of the waves of hatred that he was seeing. For a few weeks, he couldn't. He needed to keep his sanity. My 9th grade daughter told me, "We're the bad guys, right? I mean, based on what I'm seeing on TikTok." And so it's this normalization, it's this minimization, it's this silence from all the friends that we walked with down the streets of Palo Alto around Black Lives Matter that just puzzles me and scares me. I'm not experiencing anti-Semitism. My kids keep saying, there is no anti-Semitism in the schools. And when I tell them, well, what about the dirty Jew that you heard in the hallway? They said, oh, that's nothing. It happens all the time. Wow. Thank you.
So, go ahead, please. So I'm a little, I'm not sure if that, you were Ella or? Okay, so the next speaker is EB, followed by Debbie, and then AS. EB? Okay, we'll go on to Debbie.
Hi, I'm speaking on behalf of Debbie.
Okay.
My name is Debbie Muckamal. My daughter, a 10th grader at Gunn, and I have lived in Palo Alto since 2010. I work at Stanford Law School, and we are active members of Congregation Beth Am, the Reform Synagogue in Los Altos Hills. I'm in my 6th year of service and on Beth Am's board of directors, and my daughter is actively involved in teen programming there. I want to share my experience of being at the synagogue on Friday, September 8th. The temple was packed with people who had come to pray on the Sabbath and to hear from 2 guest speakers, Congresswoman Anna Eshoo and Jeremy Ben-Ami, the president of J Street, a progressive American Israel organization. We expected to be together for a catered reception after the service. A group of teens were there to gather for a chill night, an opportunity to decompress from the stress of school. Just as Sabbath services were ending and people were flowing into the reception, one of our rabbis returned to the front of the sanctuary and announced that we all needed to immediately leave the building as the synagogue had received a bomb threat. The Santa Clara Sheriff's Department, represented by many officers wearing bulletproof vests and bomb-sniffing dogs, was there to evacuate the premises and to sweep the entire campus. Being on the board, I immediately called our president to make sure she was aware of the situation. Everyone exited the building and returned to their cars quickly and orderly, even though they were very nervous and concerned. As we were driving away, my daughter, who was visibly shaken, questioned why anyone would try to blow up a bunch of people at a synagogue. She didn't understand why Jews would be targeted. I didn't have a great answer to offer her. Fortunately, the bomb threat was later confirmed to be a hoax that was replicated in several other synagogues throughout the country. My daughter's concern didn't end. She was rattled all weekend, worried that the sheriff's department officers could have missed the bomb, and that when she was there to work as a teacher's aide in our Sunday school, she would accidentally step on something that would explode.
So much.
Why are Jews targeted? It's a good question. Do you have an answer?
Thank you.
The next speaker is AS, to be followed by Susan S, and then Rachel. Okay. Oh.
Hello, my name is Alma, and I'm a senior at Palo Alto High School. I'm here to address the strictly European lens that has been forced around the discourse of Jewish struggle. As an Iraqi, Syrian, Moroccan, Turkish, and Polish Jew, it's concerning to hear a narrative that's being strictly pushed of white and European identities onto the Jewish population in order to justify hate and criticism towards them. It's a narrative that deeply harms not only the Jews receiving the hate, but also the multiracial Jewish communities, and it effectively silences Black and Middle Eastern voices in Israel. As a granddaughter of Iraqi refugees, the blind eye that is turned toward Jewish hate in many Middle Eastern countries is extremely disheartening. I feel uncomfortable participating in my school's own Middle Eastern and North African culture club, a place where I should be able to celebrate my heritage around a community of like-minded individuals. And instead, I'm afraid because of known intolerance towards Israelis in that circle. I'm tired of Mizrahi, Sephardi, and African Jews being cast aside and seen as secondary thoughts as if we don't exist. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Susan S., to be followed by Rachel, then Rabbi Haim.
Chaim.
Is that okay? Judaism is at the center of our family's life thanks to amazing Palo Alto nonprofits like the JCC, Gideon Hausner Jewish Day School, and Congregation Kolomet. I've never felt anti-Semitism in my life. Difference is to be celebrated and enjoyed. We've even joined Rabbi Booth in attending a service at your AME Zion Church and reveled in togetherness with your amazing congregants. But everything changed on October 7th. How did it feel to be Jewish in Palo Alto? Terrible. I went from shock to disgust to fear in a matter of moments. My first question, how to protect our 2 local high schoolers. The atrocities towards civilians, women, babies, children, just for being Jewish were out of a horror movie, but there they were, filmed in real time. How do I explain that to them? We are safe. It's 2023. It's Palo Alto. But why am I suddenly so scared? Somehow what happened 7,000 miles away feels like it happened next door. Why? Because Jews have a tiny world population, just 0.2%, with an undeniably tragic history. When Jews are massacred for being Jews, it affects all of us who identify with our Jewishness deeply. Furthermore, judgment of Israel's decision since then has directly translated into hateful acts towards Jews in Palo Alto, around the Bay Area, and across the world. We see it and we feel it. When I drive up to Trader Joe's, I wonder if I'll see that swastika again. I needed to take an Uber to Colomet recently. Should I really enter the address of a synagogue into Uber with a person who might have a social media feed that's aggressively anti-Jewish? We own an 8-foot-tall blow-up dreidel that we've proudly displayed on our front lawn during Hanukkah for several years. This year, we had to make a family decision. We put it up, but when a man walked down my street right in front of me in a Palestinian Lives Matter t-shirt, and they do matter, he stared at me with disgust. I knew in that moment that I can no longer be proudly Jewish in Palo Alto without being judged as complicit in a war 7,000 miles away by rules that I don't even understand.
Thank you.
And this is why everything has changed in Palo Alto for the Jewish community. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hello, I'm Rachel. I'm a 25-year-old Jewish graduate student at Stanford. I am also the daughter of refugees from the former Soviet Union. I grew up hearing stories about the pervasive anti-Semitism my parents faced and the risks of being openly Jewish in the Soviet Union. In the past 3 months, my life as a proud Jewish student at Stanford has disturbingly mirrored their experiences. As I was grieving the brutal terrorist attacks of October 7th, massive crowds marched through Stanford's campus shouting genocidal slogans and calling for violence against my people. Friends, colleagues, and professors at Stanford called the October 7th massacre justified resistance and claimed that documented video and eyewitness evidence of this massacre is fabricated propaganda. Posters on campus promote blood libel conspiracies that Israelis illegally harvest organs from Palestinians. A colleague argued on Twitter that Zionists are a threat to the US healthcare system. This blatant anti-Semitism, masked and marketed as anti-Zionism, has become normalized. It makes me feel unsafe on Stanford's campus daily and eerily parallels the perverse logic rationalizing anti-Semitism in the Soviet Union. As I stand here giving this testimony, I am afraid of being attacked and socially ostracized by my friends and colleagues at Stanford, as has happened to other outspoken Jews. I am appalled and devastated that I feel this way in 2024 at an elite university in the United States. Until now, I have been a fairly apolitical person and never imagined that I would be risking my career and my relationships for the sake of advocacy. However, I cannot in good conscience stay silent as anti-Semitism spreads like wildfire, and I refuse to put my head down and hide my Judaism as my parents were forced to do. These issues that I'm listing should disturb anyone who cares about human rights, regardless of your political opinions. We Jews feel betrayed by the social justice and minority rights movements that many of us have ardently supported. I beg you all to stop this perilous wave of anti-Semitism in its tracks before it is truly too late. Thank you so much for the committee for your continued concern for the Jewish community.
Rabbi Haim, to be followed by LC and then Kevin.
I saw him earlier. He's not here now.
Okay, thank you. LC, then Kevin, and then Rabbi Greenberg.
You forgot Kevin.
Rabbi Greenberg?
Kevin's before him.
Oh,
It's LC, Kevin, then Rabbi Greenberg.
All right. My name is Kevin Figelis. I'm a PhD student, has been at Stanford since 2016. In that time, I've watched the campus transform from an idyllic paradise, a center of learning, into a wasteland of hatred where every interaction is a minefield. I do not spend my time attacking other students, but sadly, other students spend their time attacking me. On October 7th, while southern Israel was still being ransacked by terrorists and our brothers and sisters were being raped and murdered, Stanford students were celebrating, hanging banners saying that Palestine will return by any means necessary. Later that week, while we were still counting our dead, they held a rally of 1,000 students, faculty, and staff chanting to globalize the Intifada. A month later, I was confronted at night by a dozen Stanford students. They surrounded me, shouting in my face that me and my people are dirty Jews, that we're disgusting monsters, that makes them sick to look at me. Me, who has been to Israel only once. Me, who grew up in New Jersey, one of the most diverse states in the country. Me, who was raised in a broken household by a single mother. Me, who had to fight tooth and nail to get where I am. Why? They know nothing about me besides the fact that I wear a kippah on my head, that I am a Jew. I was raised on the horror stories of my ancestors being murdered across Europe. America was supposed to be different, a haven for all peoples, but it depends on us to make it so. We are responsible for the world our children inherit. Will we repeat the mistakes of our ancestors, or will we say enough is enough, never again? Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Rabbi Greenberg.
Thank you, distinguished commission. I feel bad for you. So much kvetching in one night. It's enough to turn me into an anti-Semite. The founder and president of Chabad Jewish Center at Stanford. It's one of the large Jewish groups on the campus. Stanford is a different place. I founded the organization 22 years ago. The last 3 months, Stanford has become a place where Jewish people, almost every Jewish student I know at Stanford is afraid to openly walk as a Jew. What has happened to Stanford University? What has happened to Palo Alto? I'd like to take 30 seconds to give one image that's very easy to remember, that I think powerfully captures the disaster we're facing. And I would like to ask the distinguished commission and the people in this room for just a few seconds to close your eyes. And I would like to ask everybody to participate, and please close your eyes and point north. You have to extend your arm and point north wherever you think north is. It's okay if you're not sure, just think, figure it out. Everybody, please extend your arm. It's very important, fully, not a little bit, but fully, all the way. Point north. Please all point north. Extend it fully. And now keep your arm where it is and open your eyes and look around the room. Don't move your arm. Good. Open up your eyes, look around the room. Look at the direction. Look at everybody. Open your eyes, look around the room. You see that? That's why the Jews were lost in the desert for 40 years. It's genetic. Oh my goodness. Okay, in 10 seconds, I'm going to summarize in 10 seconds. That is what happened to our moral compass at Stanford and in Northern California. It's broken, there's no guidance, and hatred is flooding our environment. It must be stopped or society will turn to hell.
Thank you.
the next three speakers are Ofer, Michelle, and Joseph.
So we can expedite this. Can we, as they call, please come and just line up, because it will make it go a lot quicker. Thank you. So
If all three
Michelle and
speakers could come
Joseph
line
could
up.
get behind Ofer, thank you.
Yep. Sorry about that.
So thank you for having me. Good evening. My name is Ophir Gutelzon, a proud Israeli-born Jew, grandson of a Holocaust survivor, and a Palo Alto resident since 2014. My two kids are going to Pali and Green Middle School. As an entrepreneur and activist leading the unacceptable grassroots movement, focusing on saving Israeli democracy, I want to express my gratitude to the support we received here from the Palo Alto police officer, Alex Fensayev, and the Palo Alto mayor, who actually attended the Bring Them Home rally, Lydia Ku. Palo Alto has been safe haven for my family until Israel-Hamas war on October 7th. They changed everything on our experience. The organized brutal massacre of Israelis by Hamas transcended to a war zone, extended all the way here, affecting our local community. The chants advocating for the eradication of Israel have increased the risk to the Jewish people. While criticism of Israel policies or calls for ceasefire are not anti-Semite by definition, chant of destruction of Israel became personal attacks on me and my whole family who lives in Israel. The rising of anti-Semitism often accompanies a surge in hate speech against other minorities, signaling an erosion of democratic and human rights. And if we don't uphold our democratic values, the current wave of anti-Semitism may expand even further after the upcoming election. I recall a message from the Walter Hayes Elementary School on the door on 3rd grade of my kids. Attitude is contagious. Let's spread the attitude, understanding, respect, and commitment for living together in harmony in Palo Alto and revive the Palo Alto way. I want to thank you, the Commission, for letting us all talk here. Thank you.
Michelle, Joseph, and then Sarit.
Hi, thank you for allowing the public to speak tonight. I'm a Jewish student at Stanford University and a resident of Palo Alto. At Stanford, there has been a horrific rise in anti-Semitism, and Jewish women are becoming a main target. As a Jewish woman, I have been personally targeted. I constantly receive threatening emails from my fellow students, and I have been screamed at by both Stanford students and Palo Alto residents telling me that because I am a Jew, I am subhuman. And it's not just me. All Jewish women are being targeted. Jewish female students have woken up to threatening messages posted on their dorm doors, and they have been bullied until they feel they have no other option but to leave campus. When a group of female students and I put up a large sign to remember the victims of rape on October 7th, other students gathered around us, laughed, ripped down our sign, and ran away with it as dozens of other students cheered. And it's not just the Stanford students who cheer at anti-Semitic attacks. It's the residents of Palo Alto and faculty members as well. After that night, a professor at Stanford celebrated how aggressive students have become, posting online that he's so glad that, quote, Zionists don't feel safe on campus, unquote. This is a call for more violence against Jewish students, both at Stanford and all around the world. Stanford, of course, has done nothing about the attacks against Jewish students or Jewish female students. Jewish students at Stanford need support, and not just from Stanford, but from a strong city that stands against anti-Semitism. Thank you so much.
Joseph, then Sarit, then Robin. And if you could line up here so we can go through the speakers. Thank you. Okay, then we'll just go straight to Sarit. I don't think Joseph.
Is Joseph here?
I don't believe so.
Okay, we'll go to Sarit.
My name is Sarit Shibi, and I've been a Palo Alto resident for almost 10 years. Tonight is the third night this week that I've spent in meetings like this one. Earlier this week, I spent hours waiting for a chance to speak up at the Palo Alto City Council meeting in opposition to a ceasefire resolution, a resolution that would have zero impact on foreign policy, but which would make Jewish residents feel targeted and bullied. Last night, I sat for hours at the Santa Clara Board of Education meeting for a chance to speak up against a one-sided resolution which was filled with factually inaccurate information regarding a historically complex international struggle. Now, tonight, I sit here listening to the various anti-Semitic incidents in my community, since I want to make sure that this esteemed commission understands that what we in the Jewish community are living with. This is unsustainable. We shouldn't be forced to spend so much of our free time defending ourselves, especially when so many of the accusations are false. I also would ask, why is there such a loud cry for a ceasefire? What about the 136 hostages who have yet to be visited by the Red Cross, who have been held in Gaza in unspeakable conditions for almost 100 days? Have we forgotten Hamas's brutal attack on October 7th that pushed Israel into this war? Have we forgotten that there was a ceasefire until October 7th? Please stand up for your Jewish residents and ensure that we all have a safe place to live and learn. Thank you for your time.
Go ahead, please.
Good evening. My name is Robin Morris. I'd like to thank the Commission for having this session. I particularly want to thank you for listening. As to echo something that my friend Laurie said earlier, we also have kids in the Palo Alto School District. And when my son started at JLS, the school dance was always on a Friday night. And I emailed the principal and I said, look, this excludes Jewish students from this event. And I got an email back with the usual platitudes. Yes, we're terribly sorry. There's nothing we can do about this one. We'll look into it next time. And next time, it was on a Friday night. And the time after, it was on a Friday night. We do not feel heard. And we, again, as I said, we thank the Commission for listening to us this evening. Our son is now in Gun. And as we've heard from other students here, verbal abuse of Jewish students happens at Gun. It happens in Palo Alto. And from what we can see, little is done about it. My wife is another immigrant from France. You know, her parents were refugees from North Africa. She hoped for many years she was happy in Palo Alto. Recently, she's asked our children to not wear a kippah in the street. Recently, we sat and we discussed whether we should put the Chanukiah on the balcony this year or not. This is happening in Palo Alto. This is not the Palo Alto way. And I hope that what we hear this evening and the Commission and your work, you can help return us to the Palo Alto way. Thank you.
Next is David, followed by Sonia, and then Mayon.
We've heard a lot this evening about things which are clearly perpetrated by enemies of the Jews. But what has not been mentioned is that those enemies of the Jews are also enemies of America. All the many incidents of Jew hatred and discrimination described this evening, and the many, many more that comprise the more than 300% skyrocketing increase in the number of anti-Jewish assaults, are not merely assaults on Jews. They're also attacks against the most fundamental underpinnings of our entire democratic society. Our rights to life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, freedom of speech, equal opportunity of access to society's resources, education, employment, all the things that we take for granted as Americans, they're all under attack when Jews are attacked because they're Jewish. The people who block the traffic on Manhattan's bridges, disrupt national, state, and local meetings, spread Israel hatred and Jew hatred in our schools and universities, manipulate local governments to express support for anti-Israel and anti-Jewish terror organizations, and orchestrate riots and demonstrations typified by incitement to violence against Jews. These people who are responsible for the skyrocketing rise in anti-Jewish violence, these people are also enemies of our entire country. If we want America to continue as a beacon of freedom and democracy for the entire world, we need to deal with this threat in just the same way that we would deal with such a threat were we're facing any other minority. Thank you for your time.
Thank you all for listening to us all tonight. My name is Sonia Bradsky. My parents escaped the Nazis in the 1930s from Germany. I grew up as a Jewish refugee family in New Jersey. And so this is all very personal to me. I've lived in Palo Alto for 27 years. I'm a member of Congregation Colomet, and I'm now scared living in Palo Alto as a Jew. I really don't understand why Jews are such a scapegoat. Please help the Jews and all the people to live in peace. Thanks for your help.
The next speaker is Mayon, followed by Ron, and then Shir.
Is that Ron? Are you Ron?
Yeah, Mark.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, and thank you for inviting me to share my concerns with this commission. I'd like to start by telling you a bit about myself and my family. My name is Ron. I'm an American Israeli Jewish man. Married father to a senior and a freshman at Gunn. My family moved to the Bay Area and to Palo Alto 10 years ago. Both kids graduated Ohlone, JLS, and are now at Gunn. We've made this place, Palo Alto, and this community our home. I'm here to tell you that my kids feel unsafe every morning as they go to school and are concerned about what kind of day they will have today. My son had an anti-Semitic slur hurled at him by one of his own football team members on the bus, back from a game. My daughter experienced incidents that made her feel unwelcome at school and in social media because she's Jewish. Kids should feel safe and welcomed at school, no matter what their identity is. School should be a safe place for kids to grow, learn, and thrive. And yet, instead of being focused on learning, socializing, and experiencing all the good things that our community has to offer, my children ask themselves whether today they'll get to be teenagers in Palo Alto or whether they'll have to negotiate yet another experience related to their Jewish identity. What should I tell them as their father? What do you say to them as their community? What kind of present does Palo Alto offer to its Jewish community? What kind of future? I'm asking you to take action. First, by acknowledging the existence of anti-Semitism here in Palo Alto and in its schools. Do not say it does not exist, it does. And then by taking action to making sure that this anti-Semitism will not raise its head in our community, so our kids, the kids of Palo Alto, will have safer environment where they can thrive and for our better future. Thank you.
The next speakers are Shir, then Ido, then Mike A.
Shir. Ido.
Don't speak. Don't speak Hebrew here. It is not safe. Here we have to speak English. Hey, Ella, did you cover your Star of David? This is an unfortunate family discussion we had to have here in Palo Alto while walking the streets. My name is Ido Segev. I've lived 6 years in Palo Alto. I'm a vice president in one of the big tech corporates in the valley. In the last few weeks, we have witnessed a wave of protests, violence, and anti-Semitism in a very concerning levels. I recently came back from Israel, from Kibbutz Be'eri, when I personally witnessed what used to be a peaceful, a real peace-seeking community. And I saw, heard, and smelled, yes, smelled, the aftermath of these horrible atrocities caused by Hamas, aimed at people just because they are Jews. Could that happen here? Earlier, you heard Ella, my daughter, speaking of the anti-Semitic event that she encountered in Pali by a young boy. I'm still trying hard, very hard, to understand what motivated him. I can only hope he was miseducated. You earlier said that you can fight hate with love. You can also fight hate with education.
Mm-hmm.
We are really concerned with the potential consequences of the ethnic studies to the new generation if deployed in our school system in the wrong way, getting more young kids miseducated. Our request of you, please work with us, with the Jewish community, to fight hate, to educate, to deploy ethnic studies, if at all, in the right way. This is for the Jewish community, but this is for all communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Ido. We have Mike A, then Mike M.
Good evening. My name is Mike Alchek. I grew up here, and my wife and I are raising 3 children in Palo Alto. I'm a proud Zionist. My people, like all of you, have a right to self-determination. That is why the state of Israel exists. That is what it means to be a Zionist, to support ending thousands of years of persecution. And the fears that have been attested to tonight make the case for Israel stronger today than ever. Like you, I have spent a decade serving as a commissioner in Palo Alto. I understand your unique role and your responsibility in our community. We're here before you because you have power, the kind of power that can affect change and can give voice to the issues in our community that need amplification, the kind of power that can protect those who need protection. And you must use that power now to do something to combat the unacceptable level of anti-Semitism that is rampant everywhere in America, but no place more than the Bay Area. We've provided you a comprehensive strategy that's been vetted. We've provided you an implementation guide to help you find your way. And we provided you with the testimony to kickstart your process. Let the history books show that this commission, that each of you, that this city's leadership did not abandon the Jewish community in Palo Alto when they needed you the most. Finally, earlier this week, new legislation went into effect in Australia that bans the Nazi salute and displays of symbols associated with terror. That law makes it punishable by up to 12 months in prison for anyone who performs the Nazi salute or displays a swastika. Attorney General Mark Dreyfus said, I'm almost done, that the legislation sends a clear message that there is no place in Australia for the glorification of the Holocaust or terrorist attacks against the Jews. I ask, what message are you sending? And what place does anti-Semitism have in Palo Alto?
Thank you so much. After Mike M, we will have Catherine and Susan S. Catherine and Susan S. Mike, you go. You go. After you. Yes, it's your turn.
My name is Mike Morgenstern. I wasn't really planning to speak tonight. You have enough speakers, but I heard the third speaker talk about an objectionable anti-Semitic presentation at the library, and nothing happened after the complaint. And similarly at JLS, contacting the principal multiple times, we'll take care of it, but nothing happened. And it reminds me that every time there's a mass shooting, a politician will stand up and say, our thoughts and prayers are with you. And to me, that's code for we ain't gonna do nothing about gun control. And so the challenge today for this commission is there ought to be consequences for the principal and for the library staff who allowed that sort of thing. And I hope that the commission will have or does have the power to take further action, so it's not just our thoughts and prayers.
Good evening. My name is Catherine Crystal Foster. I've lived in Palo Alto proudly and happily for the past 26 years. And I want to speak to you briefly tonight about gratitude and about pain. And the gratitude is to all of you for seeing us and listening at a time when I don't think I can possibly express how alone and unseen and unheard Jews feel here in Palo Alto and frankly, everywhere in this country. And so thank you for that. I also want to speak about the pain, and I feel like the pain has come in 4 different waves. The first was on October 7th, when 1,200 of my people were brutally slaughtered, and 260 of my people were taken hostage, and untold numbers of my sisters were raped in some of the most brutal and barbaric and horrifying ways possible. And the second pain was what happened after, which was it was disappeared. It was absolutely disappeared. As soon as Israel fought back, I would watch the news. And at first it was almost like a game. I would say, well, wait, when are they going to interview the families of the people who were killed in Israel? Or when are we going to hear about, wait, they didn't say rapes. Are they going to mention the word hostage tonight? And that has been the case in every conversation since then. October 7th and the pain of the Jews has been utterly disappeared. And then the next wave, which went along with it, was the disinformation, which again would almost be comical, the TikTok history that people are using, the things that are incredibly counterfactual, but it has real world consequences. And the last pain is the pain of what I see when I see the suffering in Gaza. I mean, we cannot ignore that either. And that flowed from the initial hatred. So what I want to say to you tonight is, please hear us. Don't let us disappear. No one should feel this level of pain. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan S., then we have Emil, and is Jonathan still online?
Yes, Jonathan is back on.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm reading on behalf of a friend who cannot be here tonight. 12 years ago, I moved here from Israel. Palo Alto is known for its diversity and acceptance, but in the last 3 months, as political tensions have risen, I've felt a shift. It's hard to go on like nothing's changed when there's so much hostility towards me for being Jewish every single day. I've seen a lot of empathy in the Bay Area for all sorts of issues. Movements like Me Too were supported by friends and peers. But when it comes to Jews being brutally raped and murdered, it's like nobody around me cares. It's like there's no empathy or care at all when such awful things are happening to Jewish people. I felt hate and dismissal from old friends in classrooms and social media. I don't feel safe or like I belong in Palo Alto or my school anymore. I've stopped mentioning my religion entirely. It feels like a gamble to see if people will treat me the same once they know I'm Jewish. 2 of my grandparents survived the Holocaust. They never thought that they would see this kind of hate against Jews again in the world. But now they're watching history repeat itself. It's terrifying to see such a lack of empathy for what is happening to the Jewish people. I've lost friends because of this, friends who just turned away, showing no empathy. It's been incredibly hard. I feel alone, hated, and entirely unsupported by my community. What's scary is that history is repeating itself with this type of hate and disregard against Jews, and nobody else is seeing it. I wish people would show empathy and recognize what is happening to us. Please work with your Jewish students to fight this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Emil? And then we have Rebecca as our last speaker after Jonathan.
Oh, I'm not Emil, but I'm Rabbi Daniel Lehman. I am the head of the Gideon Hausner Jewish Day School, Palo Alto's only elementary and middle school sponsored by the Jewish community. And I'm here to tell you about the experience of our community as a result of the anti-Semitism that has existed here before October 7th and certainly in an intensified way after October 7th. For the first 30 years of our school community decided not to have a sign outside the school for fear of what that might bring as a school targeted because of its Jewishness. Just over a year ago, we put up a sign on San Antonio Road in Palo Alto declaring our school the Gideon Hausner Jewish Day School. And since October 7th, I've received numerous emails from parents asking me to take down the sign. Here in Palo Alto, having a sign declaring who you are as a Jewish school for elementary and middle school students is the source of fear. Our community is in fear. We have parents who don't want to send their kids on buses to go on field trips if we don't have armed security guards on the buses. This is a community that's committed to education, to peace, to support of the community in all kinds of ways. And we've had to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars increasing the security of our campus. Our campus is surrounded by walls. We have guards. We've had to do all kinds of things to strengthen the infrastructure so that our children, our staff, and our parents feel safe. This is happening in the middle of Palo Alto, California. So we need your support. We appreciate your convening this assemblage and listening to us. But you need to know that anti-Semitism is rampant, the fear is real, and we need to protect our children. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Emil? Emil?
I don't know if Emil is here. I think we're going
Okay,
on
so
to
we are-
Jonathan.
Jonathan?
Yeah, Jonathan, go ahead, please.
So is this working? Because I'm on my,
It is.
does it work?
We can hear you.
Okay, yeah, you can hear me and I see the clock ticking. I am a resident of Palo Alto since 2011, resident of Stanford. I'm on the faculty at Stanford and am now on the anti-Semitism committee at Stanford University. And it's a committee that I'm both gratified to be on, but I'm also upset that I have to be on. And even though, and I'm grateful for the commission meeting with us tonight, but I'm angry that we have to meet. And I think what's important, what I wanted to express tonight that's important for me is that what we're asking for as a community is we're not looking for special treatment. What we want to be is treated like any other group. Unfortunately, since October 7th, the default has become that we're harassed. And one of the reasons that default has happened is because institutions, unfortunately, haven't been strong enough at helping fight it and at declaring what kind of speech is unacceptable and non-normative. And so our schools have let us down. Stanford, to many extents, has let us down. We'll see what happens in the future. And what I'd like, I have to tell you, unlike many people, I don't live in fear. I have an Israeli flag hanging outside of my house. But I think for me as a community member, we're tired of the hypocrisy, tired that I can't just do my job, tired that I can't just raise my kids, and that I have to be constantly vigilant just because I'm a Jew. And I can't accept that. And I ask of you as an institution to help us restore a default in which we get to go back to just focusing on our lives and on not being hated. I'm tired of being attacked for being a Jew. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. We have Rebecca Ezebert.
$2 Oh, I'm saying this in my personal capacity, but I did say a version of this in my official capacity 3 days after Simchat Torah, which is one of the 4 high holidays, which was October 7th. And in fact, I just want to say it is the only fun Jewish holiday. The other ones suck. And there were teenage girls that probably would have been me wearing inappropriate clothes, dancing in a peace party, celebrating love until they were raped and murdered and their breasts cut off and penises of Hamas inside their vaginas while breasts were cut off. And is this unpleasant that I'm saying this? Because do you know what's more unpleasant? Being called a liar every time I mention this. Do you know what's really unpleasant? Is that there is not enough time in the day to correct every new lie that is said about me personally and about my people. Here are just a few, and I'm gonna read them fast. Well, here I'm gonna replace them with truths. These are truths. Israelis are not colonists. We were there, Jews were there the longest. Israelis are not white. How lucky that we get to be white for once. If you look at Israelis and at Palestinians, they are the same freaking ethnicity because half of Israelis were ethnically cleansed from the 22 Arab countries that constantly want to kill us all. Truth. Israel was not born when Jews started a war. Israel was created by the United Nations, and right after it was created, 22 Arab nations invaded us. And I say us because there are so few Jews alive, 1 Jew for 1,000 non-Jews on our planet, that it is all us. We all have personal direct ties to people who were raped, mutilated, burned alive, and abducted. Please let me finish. Please. Monday night, I spoke at City Council to make a call for common ground. I said, and please let me finish. I said, can you please say mutual ceasefire? Because 12,000 rockets are being blasted by Hamas into Israel? No, can't be said. I said, can you please add return? Kaloma, you are constantly cutting me off. And as a woman, this is not just about Jews, it is about Jewish women. Can you please have something for Jewish women?
I was just asking you to follow the rule of the other. Yes, thank you. Thank you so much.
You know, I'm sorry you didn't like what I said. Maybe next time I'll say penis more.
Thank you all so much. Okay. Let's take a deep breath. Thank you so much. First of all, I need to clear something up on the record. I misspoke, and I owe Councilmember Lithgow Hames an apology. My efforts to praise the resolution were appreciated, but it was misplaced. She clarified for me that the resolution was entirely the work of Mayor Koo, and she wants to be sure Mayor Koo receives all of the credit. I misspoke. I apologize. I'm so sorry about that.
I appreciate that. I just don't want to receive credit for something that wasn't mine. And our mayor did an extraordinary job in pulling that together. And I want people to know that that was her authorship.
Thank you for clarifying that. I just want to say one thing. One of the hardest things that we can do, particularly as private citizens that are not professional advocates. For many people, this might be their first council commission meeting or speaking. And especially the young people, I applaud you for speaking your truth, for sharing your story, for being willing to let us know. Tonight, we've accomplished more than you know. We've put on record some stuff that we can move forward to, and we will continue to discuss. At this point, I would like to invite, I have stuff to say, but I would like to invite our other commissioners and our council member to say and ask any questions you would like. Our period of public comment is over. So if we direct any questions or comments, it will be to our 3 speakers. I'm going to take a 5-minute break. We've been here a little bit. So I promise the commissioners a 5-minute break. We will come back and wrap this. Thank you. including in here. Like, they gave us an idea. Here. Here.
Oh, yeah, where can we get one of those?
Nice. Hello. 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 All right. I am so grateful if you stick with us for the last commissioner comments. We can close this item out. Michelle's on her way. She's ready. Thank you. So at this point in time, we usually have one round of responses from our commissioners, one round of responses from our commissioner after public comments. I think it's only appropriate we start with Commissioner Savage. Any comments after? Commissioner Kraus?
Oh,
Turn on the mic.
let me just organize my head for a minute.
Thank you.
This is probably one of the most meaningful sessions I've been in a long time. We heard the pain. We heard the issues. As my friend Carol Saul, who just walked out, said to me, it's anti-Semitism is always there. It's always under the surface. You know, we learn to understand and to deal with the environment. We get smart. But October 7th broke it wide open. And I'm so grateful for the work the three speakers did, for the support of our council member. Thank you. And for the community. Thank you. You've come forth. It was so critical that you be heard and that you speak. And for this, I am grateful. And hopefully, my fellow commissioners and I will figure out our way forward. This is not simple, but I'm hoping that we will find our way forward. I know where I am. Now let me work with my colleagues and we'll figure the way forward. But one more time, thank you. We cannot be silent.
Vice Chair.
I'd like to, hard to go after Commissioner Kraus now.
I'm sorry.
But I would just like to thank everybody for speaking up. Again, it's not easy and it's important to speak up. And we appreciate the number of people that we had here who took time out of their lives to come and talk to us. It was interesting to me to hear from Stanford students and from the students at the high schools in town and hear firsthand accounts of what's happening. I think that that's extremely powerful. And it's gonna give us a lot to work with. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Commissioner Causey.
I have no further comment. I just wanted to deeply thank everyone for speaking again. Thank you so much.
Commissioner Stimler.
I will just repeat the deep gratitude I feel for everyone coming, especially in a moment when there is so much fear, to come and speak up publicly. It's a big step. So thank you all, especially great to hear from some of the younger residents as well who are learning about the civic process as part of this night as well. I also was just during the break going back through the recommendations from the AGC, and so many of these are extremely actionable at a very local level.
Great point.
And I look forward to really thinking about some of these recommendations, because they really do seem like they are very tangible. I think in many ways there are things our city has already started working on, for example, with the police, addressing some of these concerns. And one of the things actually we were just discussing at the very top of this meeting, for those who have been with us for the last 3 hours, was how we are going to be doing diversity trainings for the city staff and commissioners. And one of the recommendations I see here is making sure that anti-Semitism is included in those trainings. And since we're just at the beginning of that effort, I know that that's one place where we can almost immediately start to take action on these recommendations. So that's just one of the small ways I think that there is a path forward. And I want to again thank you all for really bringing the energy, I think, behind what will become many of these actions. So thank you.
Oh, Chair, I'm ready to speak.
Commissioner Savage.
Okay, yeah, I'm prepared now. Normally with our HRC meetings, if we get 5 or 6 people here, that's a crowd.
A big crowd.
So I don't know what to call today's crowd, but it just emphasizes the importance of the issue, and it just spoke volumes to me. So thank you all for those who are still here, and it very meaningful to all of us.
I want to thank the community for coming out. I think you gave voice to the voiceless, and which is always a critical piece. I won't be chair of the HRC after tonight, which is so this is my last thing I'll do as a chair, but I will make a strong recommendation to my whoever replaces me to take this paper and work with it. I think you said something very valuable in your statements, Lori, which was please bring somebody from the community into that dialogue. And I believe these are the strong, actionable steps. We met with the MENA community in December, and they also expressed the idea of unity. I hope that as a commission, we can create space that unity can happen. And me and Rabbi Booth went to Israel. We went on a tour, and we went to Christian sites and Jewish sites. And Rabbi Booth pulls me over and he says, "You know why I like you?" I said, "Why you like me, Rabbi?" He goes, "Because you're not a universalist. You're not trying to be Jewish, and you're not trying to make me Christian. You see me for who I am, and we can be friends." And hopefully when we get the MENA community together, we're not going to ask them to come to your side. You're not going to ask them to come to their side, but that you can see each other. There's a South African word called "Sewo Bueno," which means I see you. And hopefully we can create space where both communities can see each other. And we can also create a city that sees both communities. Somebody said something very profound. I don't know who said it, but I thought it was absolutely one of the most critical things that was said tonight. The scourge of Islamophobia and the scourge of anti-Semitism are not parallel pairs. They have 2 different root causes and 2 different issues. So as a commission, I want to be very careful that we don't paint the brush as the same, but really meet each community where they are and how they need to be met. I think I'll still serve on the commission, but I will always be looking for opportunities to make sure that each community is seen very distinctly, very clearly, and their needs are met very honestly. I'm pretty sure City Council will get a recommendation from us in March, because we'll discuss this again in February. And so stay tuned. So thank you so much. Yes, Council Member.
I think we would be remiss if we didn't acknowledge the tremendous work of the HRC under the leadership of Chair Coloma Smith. On behalf of the City Council and a grateful city, We want to thank you. Want to thank you for your leadership and really all of you. What a marvelous process. Tonight was really extraordinary, I think, in terms of the depth of sharing and listening. And the process you conducted was really a beautiful one. I think many places have not been able to achieve listening sessions like this. I wasn't able to attend the one in December, but I think that was also I understand it was also a very meaningful share and opportunity to be heard. And the notion of moving forward together as a commission, as a community, in peace, with peace and unity as our goal. It feels to be an elusive goal for humans here and in our nation and around the globe right now. And yet I think it is the task in front of us. And I think I have a lot of confidence and optimism. So with gratitude to you, Chair, and to all of you on the commission, thank you for serving. And thank you to everybody just on behalf of council for how folks participated tonight.
Thank you so much. That closes item number, what item was that? 3. So we're on 4 now. We move to the 4th item, which is my favorite item of the evening, which is the election of officers. I get to hold one election. Right now, we are in the process of electing a new chair for the Human Relations Commission. I will now, oh, you guys could go. You don't have to sit there if you don't want to, if you gotta go. Poor David, he was looking at me like, do I have to sit through this? Our tradition is this: the chair of the HRC will hold the election for the next chair. After that, whoever the new chairperson is will then hold the election for vice chair. At this time, I will have staff talk about the mechanics of it, and then I will open up the floor for nomination.
Okay, thank you, Chair Smith. So the process is that the current chair explains the duties. After he has done so, anyone on the commission can nominate someone for the chairpersonship. At that point, you just say the person's name. And then after all names have been submitted for chair, the person who nominates can speak to why they made the nomination. Then the person who is nominated can accept or decline and speak to the nomination if they so choose. We will then go to public comment. Then we will have a vote. If there is more than one candidate, as we go through, we will have you just state the name of the person that you are voting for. At that point, if there is a clear decision, that the new chair will lead the process, which I just mentioned, for a vice chair. Are there any questions?
Nope.
It's a tie. Go ahead, Chair.
If there is a tie, we will redo it. And I'm going to let it run 3 times tonight if there's a tie. And then we will come back next month. 3 years ago when I became the chair, I didn't become the chair in January. I became the chair like in July or something. We had to keep running, right? Daryl was there. We reran that vote about five times for 6 meetings. So we won't do that tonight. Thank you. All right. At this time, the job of the chair for the HRC works on many levels. The first is you have to be the listening ear for the community. Part of the reason we are having the meetings we're having tonight and last month were because the community approached us and we said, let us have these meetings because this is important. The second is you have to actually run the meetings. The third is you have to work with staff on the overall strategic and tactical execution of points, building the agenda. Thirdly, you have to be present for city events. That includes the HRC has way more reporting to city council than it's had in a long time, but at least once or twice a year, you will be in front of city council talking about something, whether it's rental or I'm pretty sure some of the work we're doing right now around AAPI and what we've talked about, the MENA and Jewish community, all of this will require us to talk to council at some point. So the chair will be engaged in that. It is a very fulfilling job, and it is great to connect with the community in that manner. So that is the job. I am now opening up the nominations. Do we have anybody to nominate? I'll second and third that. We received a nomination for chair of the eminently qualified and did most of my job for me anyway, vice chair. Do we have another nomination?
I second it.
Okay. Do we have another nomination? Okay, we don't. Closing the nominations. Thank you. We will take a vote now. I'll do a voice vote since there's only one person, and I saw City Council do it the other night anyway. So, Commissioner Stemler,
Adriana, Commissioner Eberly.
Commissioner
We
Craig.
have to accept the nomination first.
Pardon me?
Do I accept the nomination
No,
first or no?
Yes, you should accept it. Actually, we have to do public comment too, if there's any.
There isn't anybody left. They all left.
Oh, online though.
No, David stayed. David stayed. That's my friend.
There are still folks online, so,
Does anybody want to make public comment,
well,
please?
let's have Adriana accept or decline.
Thank you. Commissioner Kraus, I'm honored. I will accept the nomination. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Public comment? I see no hands.
I see no hands.
Thank you. Commissioner Stemler.
Commissioner Eberly.
Commissioner Kraus? I'm sorry, Commissioner Cussy.
Commissioner Eberly.
Commissioner Kraus? Well, you and Commissioner Savage. Vice Chair, Chair Eberly? And yes, and Commissioner Smith, we have a unanimous vote for our new chair, Chair Eberly. You get the gavel.
Wow.
You get.
I never get the gavel in court, so this is like the first time. Thank you. I am honored to have been nominated and unanimously elected. I've been on the commission now for, I think, this is going to be my 4th year in the spring. So for 3 years, I'm proud of the work that we've done. I'm excited about what's to come. I'm excited to set the agenda in the future, and I'm really honored. So thank you so much. And now
you run the election.
Now I run the vice chair election. Mika, do I go ahead and talk about the duties?
Please.
Which is what I've been doing. So some of the duties are to report to City Council when the chair is not available and when the chair asks you to run the HRC meetings when the chair is not here, to work with the chair in setting the goals for the year and setting the agendas for all the meetings, and obviously be a member of the committees, the subcommittees. Anything else I'm missing, Minka?
I think that's good.
Yes. So it's an important job. Any nominations?
Okay, well, I will nominate Michelle Kraus.
I will nominate Chair Smith.
I'm not the chair.
You're not, I'm sorry. Commissioner Smith.
Should I give my reasons?
Yes, go ahead, please, Commissioner Savage.
Okay. Thank you. Michelle Kraus is one of the hardest working people I've ever met. And her work on the commission has been exemplary. She has already made a real difference. And she is smart. She earned a PhD from Carnegie Mellon. She is a walking encyclopedia. Sorry, but you are. Natural born leader, and I proudly nominate Michelle Kraus as vice chair. She is right and ready for the job.
Thank you.
Should she accept? There's another. What?
I think go ahead and accept, and then I'll say something about
That's fine.
Columbus.
Oh, I
Commissioners.
accept. Thank you. She always does the best bio. I want her as my PR machine.
So I nominated Commissioner Smith. I had the opportunity to work with him for the last 2 years as vice chair. I think, he's done an excellent job leading this commission. He brings a vital perspective to the commission and a passion for the work. He knows a lot of people in the community. He is on the ground of the community. People approach him. So he has lots of connections that are invaluable for the success of this commission. And based on that, I nominate him at this time.
I would be honored to be the vice chair for your chairship because I think you will do a phenomenal job as chair, and I just want to support that.
Great. Oh, sorry. Public comment.
Is there any public comment?
I see no raised hands, Chair.
All right, we'll go ahead and vote now. Commissioner Simler.
I'm sorry, I could not hear you.
Commissioner Causey.
Commissioner Kraus.
Commissioner Smith. Commissioner Savage.
Commissioner Kraus.
Commissioner Kraus.
Commissioner Kraus.
And Chair Eberly. Commissioner Smith. Commissioner Kraus is the new vice chair.
Do I have to say something?
You may.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And I look forward to being able to work with you next year. We both came on together. We've been on for 3 years. I think we may make a dynamic duo. I think our breadth of differences and experiences and cultural factors will make a nice blending of a fabric to go forward.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I agree. All right. Do I take over the meeting now? Yes.
Yes, you
So
do.
We'll go over to commissioner reports. Do any of the commissioners have a report to give? I know that there was a break, so.
Thank God.
Does anybody have anything to say? Commissioner Kraus, Vice Chair Kraus.
Commissioner Shea, who is not able to attend, and I spoke about the public health work and listening session that we are proposing to go forward. I've checked with staff in the case of Minka, I know what steps you will do. I know what steps we will do. And hopefully next meeting, we'll have some fundamental points to discuss on public health and, disease control.
Thank you. Any other commissioners?
I'll just give two quick updates. One is that we just got the city survey results cut by race and gender. So we'll be looking at those as a tie-in originally to the API, but depending on what else we see, perhaps broader reporting on that. And we're picking up again with the students on the climate initiative.
Thank you. I think that's it today. Our council liaison has left, so we'll move over to staff liaison report. Minka, do you have anything?
I don't have anything. I will say that this was probably, it could be Councilmember Lithcott-Hames last time. The council did a reorganization. Sometimes council liaisons stay the same from year to year, and sometimes they change. So that as soon as I have those announcements, once the mayor has made them, I will pass them on to the commission.
Thank you. Any commissioner questions, comments, announcements, or
Can I-
future meetings and agendas?
Yes, can I have one?
Yes, go
second?
ahead.
I really want to thank the people, the panelists, the program meisters. Thank you. You did a tremendous amount of work. I know that. And we're very grateful for you coming forward and speaking. Okay?
Thank you. We are adjourned for tonight. Thank you so much, everyone.